Welcome to the Triple Takeover Toycast, a fortnightly podcast all about Transformers and occasionally other toy lines as well, but tonight is kind of predominantly about Transformers. Now, my name is Sixo, but more on that later, because with me, as ever, are my two beautiful co-hosts. We've got the absolutely stunning Jason of J-Swags. How you doing?
Very good. Hello there, Sixo. Hello there, other guy who's not been introduced yet.
Well, I was going to say, I thought I'd mix it up a little bit.
I know, I was like, whoa.
Bring you in first.
Gonna what hole then?
I feel like I've been relegated here.
Yeah, well, relegated a little bit. Maybe that's what several weeks of whinging about not being introduced will get you. I don't know.
Oh, the shame. Oh, no. Battle.
Just saying.
Lines drawn.
Every episode is somebody's first episode.
Right, yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
You've been saying that for several weeks, if not months.
Just because you think everybody knows who you are, they don't need to know the rest of it.
No, it's not a question of
The
that. I think they know who you are too.
Yeah.
Everybody knows Toybox Soapbox. Anyway, there's an app.
Yeah.
What? Hasbro?
Oh,
Very nice.
There we
Oh.
go. Very
Yeah, it's good.
I was trying to work it into Haslab, but realised that doesn't go in the same way as What Ho. But
Yeah.
there we are.
Haslab. Yeah, not quite. But how you doing, Liam? You okay?
I'm all right. I'm very good, thank you. Very,
Excellent.
very good. Had a nice week. I got a new controller for the PlayStation today. I put it in the box to return after using it twice.
Why is that then?
So I bought one of those Pro controllers. This is all the rage now. They've got buttons on the back, all this stuff. And it's slightly too small for me. Like, I've got little hands as well. I'm an average height man with
I was going to
reasonably
say,
sized hands.
Shit, that must be tiny.
Yeah, but I was trying to play it and everything is like wrong. All the buttons on the back, I'm pressing it by mistake. The button's like a hair trigger. I came out of the game, I was like, I'm a very reasonable man who feels like he's experienced some very unreasonable things right now. But
I can't even imagine how small that thing must look in like Jason's hands, for example. It would just be
like the Megatron PlayStation controller, wouldn't it? That's what
it really would, yeah.
Yeah.
Make you look even more like a giant.
Yeah.
Yeah, just poking it with my pinky.
Glad you said pinky. Excellent.
Yeah, me too.
All right, cool. Well,
it only came out of the box about an hour ago. I had 2 games on Helldivers. I'll say about 2 hours ago. I went straight back in the box and sealed back to go back to Amazon. Like, I'm not having this.
Not today.
No, Jason, you play video games.
I do a lot.
On something more recent than a Spectrum over there. But so when you're playing shooters, the trigger, you tend to hold your hands on it, don't you? You hold your fingers over it.
Yeah.
So this is like a hair trigger. I don't know. It's a real design flaw. So I'm constantly running and zooming down the sights when I'm not meaning to.
Yeah.
It's like constant. It's
Excuse
very
me.
irritating.
Point of order. I have played video games.
Mario Kart.
Yeah, Mario Kart. Yeah, Mario. I have a Switch.
It's a video game.
I have a Switch now. We have a Switch
You
in
do.
this house.
And what I love about this is that you got the Switch just recently, as they just
think
before
there's a
they
new
announced
one?
the Switch 2.
Yeah.
I like your style. I like your way of doing it. Like,
Never
hey,
current.
I'm
Never
current for a week.
No,
That's it.
I'm the same
Finger
with
on the pulse.
Transformers. Never
Yeah.
current, never completely up to date is the thing. That's
It
the
was when you
vibe.
were saying you were going to get one, and I kept like putting in the chat, just like saying, just so you know, there is a new one. like,
Yeah.
just literally about to be announced, and you're just like, yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it's fine. It's like, good
I don't need to be up to date with it. Mario Kart is really good. I'm the undisputed champion of that, so that's fine.
Oh,
Is that because you just
destroy you
battling
on Mario
7-0?
Kart.
Is that why?
No, well, partly that, but and my wife and
okay.
although
Yeah,
she's
fair
very good
battle.
actually.
She's
She's
very
very
yeah,
good
I
at
imagine
Mario
she's
Kart.
great at Mario Kart.
She's really good at Mario Kart.
Did she do the double
she's-
bumper jump boost thing? Because I
Yeah, of
didn't know
course.
about that
Yeah.
until I played against one of
Everybody
my
knows
team.
that one.
She's got
Everybody knows
strong
that.
turtle shell throwing vibes. Like, I can tell.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
She's got
Absolutely.
that in her locker.
You got to have your wits about you. Definitely. Definitely.
That's what my son always does to me whenever I go to game. He picks up in our
Throws
game.
turtle shells at you.
He does. He gets the little cuddly turtle shell and just throws it across Sports Direct at me, and I'm like, "Wah!" And he's like, "Dad, watch out!"
You just spin around in a circle.
Yeah.
going,
Jason, can you walk in a room without someone throwing a projectile at you?
No,
Honestly, like,
I'm just the target, obviously. And if I turn to the
Yeah.
side, I'm pretty much a line, so people have to be pretty accurate. So
maybe that's it. Maybe it's the challenge of it.
yeah, can we hit him from the side?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, listen, are you guys up for talking a bit about Haslabs tonight?
Yeah.
The old
Very
Haslabs?
much. Yeah.
I'm raring to go on this one. I'm not going to lie. I know I said this to both of you. I'm
We
like,
should have got someone called Dexter on. That's what we're missing.
Dexter's.
'Cause we could have been
Oh,
Dexter's
Dexter's
Haslab.
Lab. Dexter's
Oh,
Lab.
yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Took me a second.
Yeah,
Took
that
me a
did. I was
second.
going down
Okay.
something quite dark there.
There will be
yeah.
doom and gloom while things go boom. Dexter's Haslab.
will that be the most random reference that Liam makes tonight? One suspects not, but either way, I'm raring to go on this one. I have opinions on this. And,
Surprise!
Well,
Yeah.
we'll come up with it. We'll get to all of that, won't we? So,
Yeah.
in the meantime, should mention before we get into Haslabs that we do have a sponsor for the evening, and that is tfsource.com. So do go and check them out for all your Transformers needs, and we will do a bit of a segment on them in the middle of the pod. And we also have a Patreon. So if you enjoy what you hear tonight, and maybe this is your first episode, or maybe it's your 99th, because I didn't say it before, but this is episode 99, guys.
Wow.
One away from 100, and that's pretty monumental. So,
This is a flake.
Oh, it is.
oh, it is.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. I thought you were being insulting there for a minute, Liam.
Yeah.
This is where I flake out. Let's see you later.
Yeah, go on.
Exactly. I thought you were talking about Jason. Kind of flake shaped, aren't you?
Yeah, it's true.
You were both the same shape, just like lanky, aren't you? You're both like up there in the clouds, little clouds.
That's
one
true.
corner.
Yeah.
I know, but
Yeah.
Jason's got about, I don't know, a quarter of an inch on me or something, maybe half an inch. So I feel
tall
in terms
crew.
of height, I mean,
Yeah.
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 Woo!
everything else can remain in people's imagination. I don't know, but it's definitely in terms of height, you've got a little bit on me, so I feel that I'm able to still make those tall jokes about you.
That's true.
But this is episode 99. I'm dead excited about that. And one away from 100. But there's still lots more on our Patreon. So we've got over 90 minisodes on there as well, over 60-something mini-series, all kinds of stuff. So absolutely you want to go and check it out on there. It's 5 glorious tiers of stuff at patreon.com/Triple Takeover. And we'll do a little bit of a segment on our Patreon at the end of the episode today. Won't we, lads?
Yeah.
Maybe.
100%. Yeah.
No promises.
Maybe.
We'll wait and see.
Pretty sure
We
we
shall
will.
see.
Yeah,
Galvatron.
Jason says we will, so sounds like we will.
Yeah,
Oh,
we have
Jason
to.
Show. We are second in the billing now, Jason's.
Well, exactly. He's
Yeah.
been promoted, you see.
You guys get to make the choices.
That's what a year of loyal service and being on time, punctuality will get you.
Has he been here a year now?
Yeah, whatever. We celebrated his year. We did a little.
Did we?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
acknowledged
it was like
yeah.
it was back.
Didn't even get you a cake.
I know. I was traumatized. It was back in November.
That was your job, Liam. We discussed it. We said you would get the cake.
Oh, yeah, let's forget this cake now.
The best thing is you don't
It
even
was
know
nice.
if that's true or
I
not.
did
You
try.
have no
Could be.
clue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
It
never
could be
realised we
true.
could take advantage of this. That's a good point. It's like you
Oh,
said
yeah.
you'd get me that.
Well, congratulations on your year, Jason. There you go.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
What a year it's been.
It's been. It's got. You know, when I realised that it was like, oh, hang on, it was it was my friend Neil who said it to me. He's like, "You've been doing that for more than a year, haven't you?" And I'm like, "Have I?" Oh, I suppose I have, which was pretty cool.
Mm.
He even remembered the first episode I started on as well, the number.
Episode 66, and now we're
Correct.
99. Look at that. So
Oh,
that's
yeah,
pretty,
look at that.
Didn't there used to be some other guy on here? Like, I
Yeah.
can't remember. It feels like there
Yeah.
was, but I can't quite.
Actually, this is mad. Speaking about the other guy, that means that you are now halfway into the other guy's tenure. 33 episodes
Yeah.
versus 66.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh dear.
How's that?
Oh, I don't know. That's kind of mad, actually. It boggles
That's
my
blown
mind the
your mind a
amount
bit.
of content that has been created since I joined, and keeping in mind what was already created before. Whenever you put those, you put the up at TFN and you put it on, and all the episodes that are on the
all
Patreon,
pictures,
it's
of all
unbelievable.
the
So
different
cool.
recordings, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, bearing in
amazing.
mind as well that for the first year we didn't have mini series. Well, we kind of came in about halfway through the first year, I think, with mini series, but then we didn't have mini-sodes. No, sorry, mini-sodes the first
No,
year.
mini-sodes were
Mini-series came
halfway
after as well.
Right.
later.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
much
So
later.
yeah, exactly. So at the start, it was just the fortnightly episodes. So
Yeah.
actually, in terms of time, it'd be interesting to see because we're still pumping it out and with short circuits and stuff as well. So
Yeah, totally amazing.
I think it was August was when we launched the Patreon, so that would be when the minisodes started.
Mm.
I remember it because I was on holiday in Cornwall when all this was going live.
That's yeah. So and we started in May, I think. I want to say was it March?
Well,
that
we
first
started the
year?
episodes
Yeah.
February, I think.
Was it February?
Yeah,
Was it?
I think because we were going to start in January.
Oh.
We spent the January kind of testing it out. And
That's exciting. Well, I mean, obviously, the next
Possibly.
episode 100, is a big celebration for us, and we've got plans, don't we? We've got 2 guests coming on, a little
Yeah.
double act of guests. It's going to be chaotic. I think it's fair to say
Mhm.
Spoiler.
chaos.
Yeah.
Complete
Oh, it's
chaos.
going to be late as well, isn't it? It's going to
be a long one.
Oh my
It's going
goodness.
to be glorious. It's going to be...
It's going to be hectic.
I've got no idea what the vibes are going to be on that episode.
We're going to be
it's-
wrecked.
Yeah. It's
Think
very
so.
hard to say. On the one hand, like supremely kind of chill vibes, and on the other hand, not chill vibes.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like where's it going to fall?
Where's it
I don't
gonna
know.
I
meet?
just wonder who's going to be the last one standing. You know,
Oh,
Very good.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah,
I
like
reckon
that.
it'll be Jason for his sins.
Oh, very good.
Ooh.
Gosh.
Oh,
Yeah.
There's a little clue in there, maybe
Yeah.
somewhere for
Just
those of
tiny
you
one.
still wondering what the identity of our next two guests might be. But it is definitely worth looking forward to. So, but for
Yeah.
tonight, it's all about Haslabs, isn't it?
Mhm.
So now, Liokaiser, what do you guys think? Are you in? Are you in or not on
Backed.
Liokaiser? That's the big question.
That's the
Backed.
Yeah.
I've backed it. You know,
I backed it, but not necessarily for the obvious
Ooh.
reason.
Oh, okay. I'll just say quickly, I have as well. But Liam, go on then. What's your reason?
Well, I really like it. I think it looks good, but I just knew I was in that place where I kind of felt like I had to back it, because if I didn't, it then becomes a thing I possibly won't ever have. It's kind of
Right.
like, you know what I mean? It wasn't like back because I was like, oh my god, it looks so good. I mean, it does look great, but it wasn't like I've got to back it that way. It was more like, oh, I'm gonna have to back it to avoid the disappointment.
I get you. I can
Mhm.
understand that. And
There's a
but
pressure
I don't
on
think.
myself.
Yeah, there is a bit of pressure, a bit of FOMO, all of that kind of stuff with these Haslabs. Naturally, I don't think that's a
Mm.
bad thing. In your case, though, to say that you did it just because you don't want to miss out later, because at the end of the day, you can always move it on.
Yeah.
and
yeah, at least
you know
you've got
it'll
that option.
appreciate.
But I mean, that's
Yeah.
not the only factor. That was the kind of the main nudge in the end. There was a little bit of like, it looks good, but we'll see. And then straight away that was replaced by, oh no, hang on. If I don't back it, because it's gonna fund. It was very obvious. The second it was revealed, that's gonna be the fastest to fund, and it looks like it's gonna be. But
Well, that is interesting in itself. I mean, that is something I definitely want to drill into, because there's been this kind of perception online that maybe it's not been popular, which is, I don't think, the case at all. I think it is really popular. So we should kind of unpick that a little bit as well. But no, I do agree with you. I think the FOMO thing is absolutely real. I get a bit of that as well, where you're like, well, it's sort of not doing it in a way is kind of like, if you can, you may as well. Like, I know that sounds really like flippant, and I don't mean it to, but the fact that you can always, these things appreciate and whatever, and you can always just get rid of it. It sort of makes it, if it's possible to do so, it's sort of I don't want to say a sensible decision, but it's sort of a no-brainer, isn't it?
Totally. Yeah, the thing is, though, as well, it's one of these, when you do a backed project, when you do a Kickstarter or anything like that, the reason you back it is because that's in a way, that's kind of the fun for me as well, in the fact that it's a limited run.
Right.
And that's the reason for these things. Yeah. And it's finite. So
a lot of them aren't, though, are they? A lot of stuff that goes through Kickstarter.
Well, no, that's true.
A lot of it goes then on to like a greater
mainstream
audience. There's like you get something for backing for being one of the original backers, but then it will go to retail. But something like this, it's kind of like, it is so finite, and it's not like it's going to be reissued down the road or as easily available. Then there's that, and there's also the thing that's been kicking me was that I skipped Unicron, and I regret it now. As much because I would quite like the toy, but at the time I was like £600. That's insane.
Yeah,
money.
of course.
And now you look at that and go, God, that would be a bargain at that. Well, not even a bargain, but you know what I mean, compared to what it goes for. So it is now definitively far, far, far out of reach, even if I ever wanted it.
Although that's a funny one for me, Liam, because I missed out on Unicron as well, but I'm not as bothered, even though I love it, and having seen your copy of it, Sixo, it is really impressive. But the conversation we had recently about space, it's such a massive toy that I'm just looking at it going, oh, how many Missing Link toys could I get for one Unicron? It's a pretty substantial thing. So that was a factor for Unicron, whereas these ones, like your Victory and for Liokaiser and all this stuff, these ones are the right size. They fit well with my existing collection, all that kind of stuff. So they would be gaps that I would see personally in my collection that I want to fill. And actually, on a related note, Liokaiser is one of the G1, the only G1 combiner I don't have. And I've been after it for ages, and I'm gutted because the 1 year I was being sensible about money at TFN, and Toy Fu had one boxed, looked amazing.
Oh.
And it stayed there for quite a while, and it was a reasonable price, I remember. But I just didn't have the funds at the time, so couldn't get it. And I'll be honest, I don't think I've ever handled one either, actually, a G1 original. So
you can handle mine if you want.
You'll fondle your
just to confirm. Yeah. So this is an extra layer for me in the fact that it's...
Don't let him touch your Hellbat or your Guy Hawk.
Well, excuse me, it's Elbat now. Elbat.
So this stuff, right?
Because I'm touching my Guy Hawk.
There's a lot of this release that I'm like, because I saw your post about Elbat. I didn't realize.
The obvious one is Drillhorn.
Yeah, Drillhorn was the one you should have gone with.
Yeah,
it's clearly Drillhorn.
Innuendo. Went around the houses.
Drillhorn was definitely the one you should have gone with there.
Yeah.
It's literally right there.
Hey ho, fail.
You're getting old.
Why is it called Elbat? Do we know? Is it a copyright?
We do know, actually. Yeah, and I must admit, I, like a lot of people online, had assumed that it was called Elbat because maybe of some worry about using the word hell, and people were sort of saying, "Well, why can they have kill bison but not Hellbat?" You know,
but hell is a swear word, isn't it? In
yes,
America.
In America, yeah, it's not a big deal here, but it turns out it's not that. It turns out it's a trademark thing. So some other company has the trademark for Hellbat specifically, so they changed it to Elbat. But they changed one of the other names as well. They changed it to Jaruga from Jaguar, and but apparently that's more correct pronunciation anyway, based on what the name is supposed to be. I don't know. So, but yeah. Anyway, that's why it's Elbat.
It sounds like that David Hasselhoff song. You know, ooh Jaruga, ooh Jaruga.
It does a bit, doesn't it?
I can't stop this feeling. Deep inside of me. Yeah, that's what they should have put like the tagline, you know, Liokaiser, hooked on a feeling.
Right.
Got Hasselhoff involved somehow.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Promo.
Yeah.
That would have
that would have definitely sold it to anybody over 40.
Yeah. Yes. Who likes kit. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
All of us.
Tie it in with Agent Knight. There we go.
Yeah.
What about you, Sixo, for Liokaiser then? Because you've obviously backed... Oh, that's what I would say, before I forget. This is the first time I was talking Haslabs that we've all turned up and we've all backed it at the same time. Yeah. Normally, one or two of us hasn't backed it when we're chatting. So I was like, well, hang on a second. It's got the Triple Takeover seal of approval already, which is basically, that's it.
Well, I mean, look, there was no way I was already kind of excited. So I'm going to be... I think I can say this. I knew what it was. I knew it was going to be like...
did you?
Yeah, did you?
Yeah. So no, I know that this is, well, kind of. So I know that I'd said to you, I wonder if it'll be this. I know. Yeah. But then after that, I found out what it was.
Oh,
right. Because they were asking about colours of Liokaiser and things like that.
So they didn't choose a yellowed one, basically.
Yeah. So there was a bit of a behind the scenes conversation on that. I presume I'm okay to say that. I don't know. I've not had to kind of NDA things. So, and I didn't tell anybody beforehand. I didn't even tell you guys. So
that's cool.
Yeah. So I found out. I can't even remember what it was, but it wasn't that far in advance of them announcing it. So, and to be fair, they didn't specifically say it's Haslab. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I was like, this is totally going to be the Haslab. Like, there's no question. When they were like, we'll just get some, reference for G1 Liokaiser, and that's what we're kind of looking at. And I was kind of like, I think I know why. I had a good inkling, let's say.
Yeah, that's cool.
But as soon as I knew, and then certainly when I found out what it was, when it was announced, I was like, there's no way this needs to happen. I think it looks really, really impressive. And I do think it's not 100% perfect, and I feel like I kind of almost need to say that because there has been such a weird backlash about this toy in like a sort of strange way. I feel like a lot of people have had some people have had some very strong opinions. Like, it's been kind of a bit of a weird one to witness, to be honest, because I feel like some folks have almost made it their mission to trash this thing and tear it down, and it's been a little bit I'm just going to say it. I feel like it's been a little bit hyperbolic and a little bit performative in a weird way. Like, I don't feel like the level of reaction from some corners has sort of been justified based on the toy that I'm seeing, certainly, to the point where I've seen people actually throwing insults at each other. Like
Really?
calling people that are people that are backing it. They're being insulted because of their
But why? What's the?
Well, that's the thing. I saw. So there was someone. There was a post earlier that was shared by a guy called Rodimus Primal, who's online. I mean, that's just one example. I have seen plenty of others, but the guy in there was talking about people being dumb fucks and stuff like this because and it's all really gross. But I find that kind of strength of reaction really strange because at the end of the day, there's the old caveat of if this is not for you, you don't have to back it, right? Like that's the obvious point.
That's what I always say
in all of this. If you don't like it, by all means say that you don't like it, but also just don't back it and vote with your wallet at the end of the day and vote with your preference. And if it tanks, it tanks. But clearly it is quite a popular project, But I think it has been really strange as well because it's almost like people have kind of really zeroed in on any tiny perceivable flaw and things like this. And there are some things in there that I think it's fair to quibble, and some things that actually I'm like, yes, I would like to see those things changed and maybe it could be a little bit finessed in those areas. But equally, even taking those points into account, I still think it looks like an incredible project. And I still think that the design is super cool. And for me, this is like, it's like what you were saying, Jason, the original is such a sort of a legendary figure, and there's been the Combiner Wars Unite Warriors version or whatever, but this
Combiner Wars, there was no Unite Warriors version. That was the thing so many of us were waiting for, but they
didn't do it.
That never came.
No.
But this to me, it's funny because I saw comments about it earlier going, well, why is it accurate to the cartoon? Couldn't it be its own thing? Can't they change things to make it better and all of this? And there's so much discourse about it. But at the end of the day, clearly, whether you like it or don't like it, clearly this is resonating with a lot of people, right? Like they're looking at it and going, yes, that's something that I would like to own. So I feel like all of the kind of temperature of the debate, certainly that I've witnessed, maybe just needs to be taken down a little notch and kind of put into context a little bit as well, and kind of maybe people need to kind of consider that, all right, I might not like this thing, but clearly some other people are, and so it has merit to some people, right? Like, and I don't know.
But that's social media, isn't it? Like you get people's unfiltered reactions, for better or for worse, and so you are going to get the people who don't like it come out vociferously. In the same way, you'll get other people come out of it like yourself going, oh my God, this is amazing. Rightly so, that's how you feel. But you're going to get the opposite side of that coin.
Oh, of course. And
I do think a lot of it's very over the top. But I just think that's social media, isn't it? That's kind of...
It is, absolutely.
And the course.
I should stress, because inevitably someone misunderstands and inevitably someone is like, what, we're not allowed to complain about these things. And it's like, no, of course you are. Absolutely. Yeah. Of course you are. You should absolutely say if you don't like this thing. But some of it
has been very... I don't know, a bit performative, I think.
That's
probably what you were probably getting at, what you were earlier. I think that's where we're going. I think there has been a lot of that. And I think the thing to understand with that is I don't think it necessarily comes from people actually disliking it. I think there's a disappointment that it's possibly too expensive for them at the moment. Because
I think there's a big
I have seen that.
That's how a lot of people react to stuff like I did when I was a kid. I'm not saying it's kids, but like even now, if something like that, I'd be like, oh, I didn't like it anyway, That's what you like, and I think that's how people. I think that's how people's feelings it boils over. It's kind of I really wanted a Liokaiser. I can't afford this. This is out of my reach, and then how it tips into, I hate it. This is why I hate it.
That's a good point, actually.
Reasons to dislike it as well. Like you'll look at it and overanalyze it, then you'll be like, well, I don't like that anyway. That sucks. It's not the perfect thing. That thing I would get, and it's like, I can sympathize with that because I think was it
I totally
45 days
with it.
Is the shortest one, isn't it? As well.
No, I think they're normally 45. I think Unicron ran on a bit longer. Unicron, I think, is kind of a separate.
Yeah,
thing,
that's its own.
Like, it's its own beast.
In
many ways.
I thought the others were like 3 months. God,
no. 45 days is pretty typical. I mean, I do think that my personal opinion, I think the backing window should be longer. I don't think 45 days is long enough. I think the fact that it only runs over, and I've said this online, the fact that it only runs over 1 month end, I don't think is enough because for most people that's payday. And
that's a fact.
One payday is I think that's not enough to kind of suddenly scarf up the asking, and I think if it ran over at least a month and a half, 60 days, whatever, that would be beneficial for a lot of people and just make it that little bit more accessible. So I do think that's a factor, and I am sympathetic to that, and I'm sympathetic to people that are not going to be able to get this. But then equally, for those people, a lot of them will own stuff like Legacy Nemesis or whatever it might be, and that it is like another tier down, not very far down, but another tier down of inaccessibility for someone else, right? So there are
it's
always
relative.
levels.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Exactly. Yeah, there are always things that people can't get in on,
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's true. But I think in this case, the stuff like Legacy Nemesis, those things are available at retail, and they'll, in general, not in every case, like if you think of something like Studio Series Springer, that in and out over here, like we never saw it.
Yeah.
But stuff like Nemesis, Legacy stores, they tend to be plentiful and available for a range of months in different places you can look around.
Well,
this, you've got a 45-day window to decide and get the money. It's not like if you saw like when they announced Nemesis, it's normally like you've got months till that's coming and you can sort of plan for stuff no matter what your budget
that is true. Yes, the planning bit, certainly.
Yeah.
Yes,
I think that's where I'm sure we'll get into this in a bit, but I think this is one of the downsides with Hasbro Pulse is that the window is not enough for everybody who wants something. I think it's the accessibility factor, because like, I don't know, if it was longer, people can save as well. And I think you're putting it out of people's reach a bit by going, you've got 1 month and a bit to conjure up 300 quid. And it's a lot of money to ask from people in a short time.
Do they always...
Like you say, over one payday as well.
Yeah. Are the Haslabs always... They're not always announced at the same time, are they? In a year? It's like... Because I was just thinking about...
It's varied. Yeah, it's varied. They seem to be getting into a little bit of a run where... Because this is what they've done with the last couple, where they announce it around this time. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it is becoming a kind of annualized event, and I think they'll probably, could be wrong, but I think they'll probably stick with that kind of schedule of announcing it around this time, and then it launches basically 18 months later in kind of the autumn or fall for our American listeners. It's fall of the next year. So in this case, Liokaiser, if it backs,
we don't talk about fall around these parts. We're an autumn podcast.
Yes,
an
autumnal.
But exactly, Americans don't get the joy of saying autumnal.
Well, I mentioned about Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles on a YouTube video earlier, and I had people in the comments already going like, "God, the UK sucks." Like, well, I'm not literally saying that, but they were saying that, like, comments about UK censorship and stuff like that. And I thought,
Ninja's horrible.
We don't mind saying hell. Do you know what I mean? So,
exactly.
It's all relative, isn't it?
So relative again. So the whole thing with the scheduling thing, it's kind of interesting because then that would allow people to plan a bit more as well. So, I'm kind of aware that Haslab's coming out. I could save for that, see what it is, then decide.
It was announced.
Cool.
It was announced in advance that there's a Haslab coming, and it was said when it was going to be announced. I don't think anybody would have necessarily predicted the the price of it, because I think that was a big surprise.
Yeah,
I think that was
a chunk of money
for a lot of people.
That is.
But equally, the last one was like $50 cheaper, so whatever it was. So
was it?
Yeah,
it was two.
I thought it was like 170 quid until we were talking about it in the chat, and somebody mentioned it. I was like, oh my god, it was more, wasn't it?
They've been steadily creeping. It went right down for Victory Saber, and that was, people were kind of like, after
that was a good price.
Like,
that was,
and then Deathsaurus up a little bit, Mega Prime up a fair bit, and then this like up a fair bit again, I would say. And I kind of feel like the next one they need to just take it down maybe a little bit again, but we'll see on that one. But I mean, they did announce in advance, and the thing is, I actually agree. I think it should be on for longer. I think the window should be longer. I think there should be, any way that they can make it more accessible to more people. I think that's a benefit, and I think that would be a benefit to Hasbro as well. Maybe they feel that building some sort of hype, kind of the scarcity of it, it's a short window, get in there. Maybe they feel that helps with the kind of campaign or something. I don't know. It's that bit I could take or leave, honestly. Like I feel like that could be more accessible, certainly.
There's an energy, isn't there? If it's a shorter campaign, it's that thing. It's like they can't give you a longer notice on it. I think that's why they have to announce it on the day it goes live. It's because the idea is you want that excitement to fund it.
The buzz.
That's what you get the sales.
Exactly.
Most of it, like we saw in the first day, it was up to nearly 40%, wasn't it? That's that's where
within 24
Simon-
hours. Yeah.
And then everything else comes in over that time. So that's where you get your biggest bump. Whereas if they trailed it, like, here's Liokaiser, it goes live in 6 months' time. By the time 6 months' times come around, it's like going to be a lot slower and probably slightly less likely to fund some of them. Not all of them, not this one, but
it was like I was saying earlier about the whole reason for these kind of backed projects is that finite amount of time, get on board, and right or wrong, they generally are pretty substantially more expensive than the equivalent. But we've talked about this before, because there's a huge difference between this limited run release that Hasbro have got to do compared to the retail release as well, and the market that you're hitting. It's so different. Because if you see a £300 Liokaiser in your Smiths, that's not going to be a purchasing option for many families, is it? Really? It's not going to happen, right?
Well, it would. This is the thing for me, and I really want to get to this because I've seen so many comments where people are like, "This should have been released at retail. It could have been released at retail," and I'm like, "Not really." Do you know what I mean? Because for several reasons. Okay, yes, you could have done a Liokaiser at retail. You could, yes, of course they could. They could have released it as 6 individual figures or 7 with Death Cobra or however it was done. I don't know. But it would have been such a different project. I mean, we know that when they were talking about doing Deathsaurus, that they planned at one stage to do a retool of Studio Series 86 Grimlock as Deathsaurus. And that was going to be the Legacy Deathsaurus or whatever. And that would have been such a different project.
I saw people say, "Oh, I would have liked that." No, you wouldn't.
Yeah, no, exactly.
You wouldn't.
If they'd have just banged that out after Victory Saber, everybody would have trashed it. It would have been like, why are we getting this and not, like an equivalent level project for Victory Saber? I don't think it would have been a popular option necessarily. And it was when they saw the absolute positive reaction about Victory Saber as a Haslab that they were like, oh, well, we can do this then. And clearly it was successful because Deathsaurus actually outsold Victory Saber. So, it makes total sense that was clearly the right decision on their part. And the thing is, there's a Digibash, which I've also shared, doing the rounds of what the Grimlock Deathsaurus might have looked like. And people are like, oh, that looks really good. And I'm like, yeah, but you don't know that's what it was going to look like.
It's very different.
It probably wouldn't have had any animal partners, and it would have been compromised. It would have had hollow bits and all of this kind of stuff. It wouldn't have had the throne, the living metal destroying cannon, all the various bits and bobs that the Haslab
the two Micromasters that made the whole set worth it for me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Wouldn't have had any of that. It wouldn't have had any of that. And it would be the same with Liokaiser. So I know I'm ranting now, but I've got opinions on this. And it would have been the same with Liokaiser because it would have had various compromises. Would it have had animal partners with the individual robots? I don't know. Maybe not. Definitely at least one, if not two of the limbs would have been very obvious repaints, probably just with a new head of another one.
Totally.
Absolutely. People are now complaining because there are no little arm fillers on the arms, which I do agree it should have. I absolutely think it should have those on the individual bots on the Haslab. But you would have had more compromises on a retail product.
There's one worse than that. You already know. You heard my...
Oh, the backpack?
No, my disappointed thing about the old Drillhorn's cockpit window.
Yes, the cockpit.
Oh, yeah, the hinge.
Oh.
That is a compromise.
For those who don't know what we're talking about, so Drillhorn's cockpit window is where they've attached the hinge, or the strut, as we hotly discussed. But it goes over the cockpit, so it makes the window functionally useless, and the window sits below the bulk of the hinge anyway. And it's a little thing.
Or the strut.
No, in this case I'm talking about the hinge,
not the strut,
the full hinge. But that's not a strut. It's part of the hinge. It's just one molded piece of plastic there. But
the strut.
That's the one I had as a kid. I had the Rescue Force drill, and so when I saw it, it's like, they've done an up-to-date version of that. And it's little things like that. When they break... we talked about it before when I was saying about doors and they make them the arms. And you're like, nobody could get in and out of those doors. On Studio Series 86 gears and brawn. And it's like, it just breaks the illusion. I don't expect masterpieces, but it's those very obvious visual compromises. And in this case, that happens there because that renders that whole windscreen useless because no one could see anything. They could only see out the sides. And it's... if this was a retail toy, it is a really small, trivial thing. But for me, looking at it, I'm like, this is a Haslab. It's like you didn't have to design it that way. It's not the only way.
No, I completely
you had
agree
to
with
do
that.
it, and at this expense for this kind of toy.
I don't think that's an expense thing, though.
No.
I agree completely with what you're saying about.
Oh no,
the
I'm not
design of it.
saying it's an expense thing, but when I look at it and go, this is costing this much money, like it's
Yeah,
kind of, I
should
feel like
be
it's a
perfect.
bare minimum. You should expect like the windscreen to not have this like
Yeah.
compromise like that.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
choice.
It is
And
a
I
good
just feel
question.
it lets it down.
Yeah, it's a good question, like why they did that as well. So a lot of these things, it's like the hollow arms, and this isn't me excusing Hasbro and what they've done here, but is that purely just on a environmental point of view that they're just using less plastic?
Nah.
I don't know. But
No.
If it was, they would not be making a £300 Liokaiser, Jason.
right,
If
but
they
the
were
thing is,
concerned
but
about
it's like,
just
you
not
know,
make
in the
thing.
rainforest, or
is
whatever.
are the reasons that, is that where we're going? And why would they put the hinge? Because when you mentioned that, Liam, I was like, yeah, they could
It's
have
a
just done
budget
that
thing.
upside down. They could have done it the other way around.
Well, so the hinge thing
There would
or the
still
strap
be a
or whatever.
budget. This is the thing, isn't
Exactly,
it? They were still about to look at it and
exactly.
go,
okay,
Still got a budget.
what's feasible and what can we get people to pay?
And I think this is where expectations come in, because I saw someone, I can't remember who it was, but someone online earlier said, "Oh, I thought these things were supposed to have unlimited budgets," and it's like, no, come on, hang on, you don't take a step back. Let's get some actual, economics on here. Of course they don't have unlimited budgets. There's no such thing, Of
But
course
this
it has
is
a budget.
where the problem starts to come in there a little bit with it, isn't it? Because it comes up as it's this price because it's the dream version of this project.
Right.
That's the kind of way it's pitched and the way it's treated. So you do look at it very differently than what you would do, say, I don't know, the Superion or Mentor or even the Devastator.
You do.
You look at
naturally.
those as just off the shelf, and there's an acceptance that's like they have to get in a budget. Here,
Yeah.
it's like they set the budget here for what.
Well, they do, but they also set the budget based on what is realistic to charge as well.
That makes sense, and that's what I agree with that. And I think that's the bit to understand. But it's at odds with the idea.
It is. It flies in the face of
Haslab.
how it's
Haslab is
marketed.
portrayed as
Haslab. Elbat. But it's it's the point, I think, is that it's not so much about budgets as it is about margins. And all of this stuff will have margins. It wouldn't actually surprise me if the margin on a Haslab, and I don't know this is purely speculation, but this is based on my experience of kind of the corporate world and whatever, and products and margins and P&Ls and all of this, which is a fair bit. It wouldn't surprise me if the margins on Haslab are smaller than they are on a lot of retail products, to be completely honest.
Yeah,
I thought that was confirmed. I thought we've seen that out there before.
Do you know the reason I would say that is it purely comes down to number of units sold
exactly
at that price point. That's what it comes down to, because this is a niche market, small pool. Just the numbers of even a Studio Series figure that you will see at retail across all the different stores. It's like, I don't know what Hasbro's release numbers are, but we are talking a lot of product, right? That's floating around the world. But this Haslab is so much different to that.
Not to mention that very often at retail stuff, they partner with people, whether it's with Walmart in the US or whoever it is, they partner, they get some investment on that as well to kind of spread the cost a little bit. There's various ways that they kind of manage those retail lines to kind of make them more profitable. And they'll have a margin that they set, and it'll depend on class sizes and whatever else. It'll fluctuate. But ultimately, they'll have, I would say, a pretty keen margin that they aim to hit for a typical retail product of whatever class size. And, if you look at something like Studio Series Optimus Prime, that will have shifted a lot of units, and that has gone, worldwide, and people are buying multiples and whatever else. Something like this that might sell 20,000 copies or something like that, and that's it. And it's a huge thing with a lot of R&D, a lot of investment and everything as well. The margin's going to be nowhere near the same, is the simple fact. Yeah. So they won't be making as much money per unit off Liokaiser, I don't think.
It will be more expensive to produce per unit than a regular toy. Equivalent.
And I think that's the bit
which is why the prices are high, and that makes sense.
That's it.
Yeah, and that's the bit that I'm not saying, people need to understand that. No, I'm not saying that, because I'm sure people don't really give a crap, but it is interesting. And I think it's hard in a way for Hasbro Pulse to kind of communicate some of this stuff. and I do think that there'll be a lot of costs baked into it as well, which is kind of why it's annoying then when you see like a postage cost on top of it and things like that, because it's just throw that in, just factor that into the asking price. It's a bit of a kick in the teeth.
Yeah, I did that little,
especially when it's free shipping for over 50 quid on everything else.
In brackets, not Hasbro, not Haslab. Pulse. Haslab. Sorry. That was.
Yeah, it's just the psychology of it. It's one of those. But hey ho, that is what it is. I guess I do think they should change that. But I think that ultimately, these kind of projects ultimately do still have a budget or something that they work to. So not absolutely anything is possible. I do think that stuff like the arm fillers and stuff is maybe a little bit disappointing not to see, but I also understand kind of why that is, why it happens.
With this one as well, it's different to the preceding three. Like, take Unicron off the table, but the other three, Starsaber, Devsaurus, and the Omega Prime, those three sets all are virtually perfect for what they are. And I think it's, when you look at Liokaiser, he looks a lot like what you would imagine like a retail one to look like, but better. If you know what I mean. Whereas with Omega Prime, you looked at it and went, that's the original toy, but with all the improvements I wanted to see. Nothing is skipped. So that we can tell, it just looks exactly, and you feel like you're paying the premium for what is the perfect version of that toy. Whereas here, you feel like you're paying the premium for a version of Liokaiser, which is a different thing to the ideal. Like the Devsaurus is, like, you pick it up and it feels like a premium thing instantly, and there's nothing, you look at it and go, man, anyone can make tiny little critiques, but there's nothing in there that you instantly jumps out. But then you look at Liokaiser and you go, oh, but even on the side of the leg bots, you can see the gaps under where the feet were. But in vehicle mode and robot mode, then this creates like gaps, under the feet where they've cut out the plastic. And like you say, the inner forearms, and it's just little things. It's more visually obvious, I think, on Liokaiser, where not the corners are cut, but where the sacrifices have been made. Whereas Omega Prime, Starsaber, and Devsaurus, you can't see that unless you go looking for stuff like that.
I agree to some extent. I would actually say that, and I'm going to be completely honest, I really like Victory Saber, but I think some of those points are obvious on Victory Saber as well. Because you look at Victory Saber's, like his twin guns that hang over, from Victory Leo, that hang over his shoulders. They're hollowed underneath, which I remember being like, that was one for me. I was like, that could have kind of not been hollow, and that would have been nice. So I think for my honest first reaction, looking at Liokaiser, I was more wowed by it than I was about Victory Saber. And I was wowed about Victory Saber. That's not me saying I didn't like it. And I do like Victory Saber. But I think especially having the original Victory Saber, the 1989 toy, I mean, as you do, Liam, you've got Star Saber. It's so impressive that the even a Haslab sort of had a hard time living up to that in a weird way. So, whereas this Liokaiser, to me, yes, all right, there's a couple of hollow bits or whatever, but it still looks like something that I've always sort of had in my mind's eye. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't feel like it's already been surpassed by something that already exists, if that makes sense to me.
And that's why I backed it as well, because it feels, as I said earlier, it's going to fit. It's going to fit really nicely with my Unite Combiner Wars figures. It's going to fit really nice with the Titans Return stuff. It's going to fit really nice with the Legacy stuff. It crosses all these different. They've done a really good job of making this fit with the line, but giving me that G1 vibe that I love, that always makes me buy versions of these figures. as well.
Agreed.
And that, let's not underestimate that, right? Because that's not easy to do. And this is interesting. The conversation hasn't been about, this doesn't look good enough. That's not the right. Okay, it's been kind of odd details like the name or an argument about whether or not people should get it or not. I personally haven't seen much critique of
I have.
No, but I'm going to caveat this. Critique of the final figure. I did see a lot of critiques of the prototype, though, and the little guy on the back.
Well, that was why did
that
they
was
do
a mistake
that?
on Hasbro's part.
God.
Why did they share that?
It drives me
man
nuts.
in the ass.
Yeah, why did they share that? So this was what I want to talk about. It's like, why did they share that picture? Because that is like just
they,
bait.
they put it out at the con, and it was everyone. It was the fans taking the pictures, but they had a 360 of it. It was on a table where you could walk around, and everybody was taking pictures. But the reality is don't put out your new crowdfund spectacular and have it mistransformed in such a bizarre, weird way. Like, oh my God, the little guy hanging off the bat there, like, God.
Like Quato from Total Recall.
Yeah, it was exactly like that, honestly.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Quaid.
Quato.
Quaid. I'm tracking your butt, Quaid.
Yeah, go to Mars.
It was so awful. And the thing is, when I saw it, I shared that picture, because when I saw it, someone online had posted it, and they were at the event. I saw it, and I was like, what? Because you see it, you think, no, that can't be... That can't be how it is, right? Yeah. And I was like, it must be mistransformed. And lo and behold, it was.
It was, very much, yeah. Very much.
To be fair, they then one-upped it with Devastator.
The shelf. Yeah.
Dude.
The shelf.
Dude.
It was unfortunate that both their combiners had unfortunate back reveals in one sitting, didn't it? Yeah, it was kind of a bit of a double whammy. But so the thing was then, it started a whole conversation, because the video that they released of Liokaiser has the little 360 of the render, and you get to see how the back is supposed to look, and it's much neater and whatever, but you can still see that ultimately, the guy in the back, Jaruga is kind of, his head's turned around.
Jaruga.
It's
like the Crash Bandicoot. Do you remember the little the thing?
No.
It was like Ugga Bugga, the little like
floaty head thing.
The power up.
I just keep thinking of what's his chops from Gladiators going awooga all the time whenever it came out.
John Fashanu.
Oh yeah, that was it. Football, John Fashanu.
Yeah.
Awooga.
Now, Crash Bandicoot is a computer game.
It is. Yeah.
It is a video game
starring a bandicoot.
The
video
Sony
game.
PlayStation. Yeah.
Not a computer game. Okay.
Yeah.
I know the distinction.
Yeah.
But Jaruga is kind of, because he's on the back, but it's funny because it started a whole conversation where people are like, this is unacceptable. Even the tidied version, people were like, this is unacceptable how it's stored there, because his head is turned around and his arms are kind of folded away. And if you go looking for it, you can kind of see it. I think it's more obvious when it's not in color, because in color it's all black is the thing. So it's kind of, it's a little bit more hidden, that guy. So yeah, exactly. And the thing is, I kind of would love to see like a cover or something over that to kind of make it even, like properly hidden. That would be really nice. I'm sure a third party or someone might do that, but that's kind of not what you want on a Haslab.
A butt flap.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to be relying on third party stuff, do you? So a backpack thing,
a low backpack.
I kind of do wonder if they might solve that, if they might build something into the design. I don't know. They have made tweaks to Haslabs before. So, and I think the reaction to that backpack has been pretty vocal. So I do wonder if they might do something with it. But the thing is that people then started on this road of like questioning the design, because Jaruga, there was a whole thing around Jaruga being in a different position to where he is traditionally on the toy or on the
the And it's a better one though, isn't it? Like,
well, this is the thing.
The original.
They've improved it.
Looking at the floor.
He's literally the ass on the original toy. Like, and I posted a pic because I was like, I feel like people maybe don't appreciate how the G1 toy kind of looks. Like, he's got a guy with a face for an ass. It's just that,
if Liokaiser sat down on the toilet, his face would be the face staring into the toilet bowl.
Yeah,
is where he would
awful.
be.
His face is the ass.
So
his
I
face
didn't know
this.
I did not know this. This is
it's just
a different version
there.
of potty mouth here, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. He's literally right there. It's just literally his head pointing downwards, just hanging out, not hidden or disguised in any way.
You're probably wondering how I got here. He's still doing that.
Record scratch, freeze frame. Yeah.
But
the thing is, because on the new one, it's sort of like they've put him up more on the backpack and hidden him away a little bit, so it is better. And inevitably people will be like, I've seen comments going, but it should be better than the 30-40-year-old toy or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but it is. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're saying it should be better, and yes, indeed it is better. So I appreciate maybe that it could be even better, but
I think we're seeing people take that as part of the cause to hate it, which is very silly. It's that little thing where they roll a load of complaints into something because they're mad about it or whatever. And I think they take little tiny things like that, and you like look at it and go, "That's a very minor thing." Like the only thing I would say on that I thought was a bit silly is he gets bonus thighs, and it's like,
Yes.
but then if you've got that much Jaruga to muck about with, it's a bit. It's been the same way with long haul as he has the extra thighs that become
extra
a thing.
bit,
But
yeah.
you're like, but his legs take up so much space on the back. You look at it and go, they probably could have just been the thighs for Devastator, and he might have been all right. You know, they could have done something else there. There's so much junk there.
Yeah, there's a lot of junk in the trunk. So the thing I would say about this is that I kind of agree and kind of disagree, because I understand why people are frustrated because it's got a combiner piece, you know, because people are like, oh, the original was an all-in-one, apart from actually the head was not all-in-one on the original Liokaiser, and the new one is not, because it's got additional thighs that are put in, you know, to kind of make the combination work. I get that that's not everybody's favorite thing. Personally, I don't mind it because I'm all about the combine mode, you know, and if the combine mode works better because you've added a piece in, that's been a staple since day dot of combiners, you know, with like hands and feet and stuff coming in. So personally, I don't see that as like a major problem, you know. And it's funny because then even like Legacy Motormaster and Menasor, I would say actually is an all-in-one combiner in a weird way, because you know all of the bits are contained within the trailer. There's no additional bits at all, and yet people still didn't like that, you know. So it's kind of, I think whatever you do with combiners,
that one was
it's going to
really
be a little bit controversial
because it's the trailer. And I think it was our friend Fancy Dan who said that they feels like they took the wrong lessons from that thing being successful, because they just do it with all of them, like the air robots. And I was like,
they add on additional bits. Yeah.
It's just become the kind of thing like the thighs are a separate piece that get plugged on superfluously into a different mode, and it's like, I feel like it was perfect for Menasor. For the others, it doesn't work so great. But and in the other modes, but in the combined form, which is all it's there for.
The combined form is ultimately the thing, yeah. I mean, I guess we spent a whole episode recently, didn't we, kind of debating this and like what the perfect way to get a combiner is. My take, honestly, is that I really don't mind it. But even if people do, I would say that it's just the kind of current solution that they're running with. You know, 10 years ago, it was more about adding on hands, but then ultimately,
they'll do something else
the main bot was the limbs and stuff. It was kind of more traditional Scramble City style. Now, 2024, 25, they're doing this with like additional thighs, and that's why Devastator and Liokaiser are the same, basically. You know?
I think what it showcases a little bit actually is like almost like a disappointment in the lack of sort of inventiveness there. And it's not like a lack of inventiveness on Hasbro's part, as in like they've got no ideas. It's like they've chosen specifically this is the path because they're trying to get a cartoon accurate thing.
Yeah.
But I think you're seeing people are starting to tick over away from the cartoon thing, thinking, I kind of missed that kind of, how is it going to turn into legs? How is it,
right?
You know, what you would get if the bot wasn't designed to look like a cartoon.
Valid.
If it was just like where they was like, it's a new version of Devastator in a different style, like I don't know, they did in Energon or whichever, which wasn't great. But again, it's like different parts of, it's one robot with his legs, or in G1, or in other, you know, like they've tackled it in other ways.
Yeah.
Well, I think that is such a salient point, honestly, and I am really sympathetic to that, because I saw a comment from someone earlier saying, it's accurate to G1, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's good. You know, like accuracy is not one-to-one with, you know, nice aesthetics or whatever it might be, you know, or like a fun transformation. And I'm really sympathetic to that. All I would say is that I kind of agree, because, you know, we've said many times on this podcast that actually we're in this world of referencing everything from the past at the moment. And I do feel at some point it would be nice to kind of get to some real, again, I don't want to frame this like I'm critiquing the current toys, because I really like the current toys, but you know, kind of you need like another Unicron trilogy
on the current toys. You are. You're
getting loads at the moment. Yeah.
I think you have to stage an intervention. Like, I was like, is he all right? He's got an addiction,
all that space. It's all that space he's got from his 3P sales. That's what it is.
Yeah, like chug, you know. That's
quality
toys. Postman at the minute. Like every day you're turning up with sackfuls of Legacy toys.
What are you on about? No.
This guy.
The thing is, I think you do kind of need another Unicron trilogy at some point, which is like, hey, you were doing new designs, like Reactivate and stuff was, you know, not to get into the computer game, but the 4 toys that were released were kind of popular because they're completely fresh takes
different
on kind of, you know, old designs.
Old generations.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
classics and that kind of stuff when it kind of really tore up the rule book a little bit. It's still kind of familiar, but different.
Mm.
And I'm sympathetic to the people that are like, well, they'd rather that than like slavish cartoon accuracy. But what I will say is that is the current thing that's happening, is that accuracy thing. So it's no surprise to me that their big, flagship kind of Haslab project is going that same route. Like if they dropped a Liokaiser that just looked completely different to anything we'd ever seen before, a lot of like hardcore collectors would be like, that's not what
imagine. People would be on their soapboxes, their toy box soapboxes, literally screaming about that as well.
Me, yeah. That is it though, isn't it? It is different shades for different people, isn't it?
Exactly.
Like we're all different, different strokes, whatever. We're all like that. It's like some people want the content accuracy. This is for them, and that's great. Like us, I really like it. I'm into it, and I think it's everybody likes something different. And I think you just get on social media, the reaction from the people who don't like it is, I don't like it, and it sucks, and it's wrong, and it's bad. And you're like, it's not. You just don't like it. It's a separate thing from it being bad. These things aren't always the same thing.
Well said.
Yeah, and it's. Do you know, it's always a bit of a shame because I love this community and I love that. I've said it before, but like when we go to TFN, there's always such a lovely vibe. I was trying to make sense a wee bit of this when I started seeing stuff, and then I switched off of social because it was kind of just a wee bit.
It got a bit intense.
Just a bit of a shame. It was a bit intense, and this whole kind of thing that can be in other fandoms across lots of different stuff. Actually, do you know what? Let's bring it back to computer games. When I was growing up, people either had an Amiga or an Atari ST, and if you had one or the other, you'd slag each other off, right? This would be the thing that you would do. I've never really experienced that badly within the kind of Transformers community, but is this to do with the toy? Probably not. Is this to do with the Kickstarter style method
I think it's a lot
that
of
we've
that.
got? And that's what I think it is, right? And I also think this probably bleeds slightly, or no, I'm not going to say slightly, heavily into Hasbro at the moment as well, and decisions it's making that's had an effect.
Yeah.
So how they're seen in the public eye, and then what they're doing, releasing a £300 toy that's very niche, that is limited run, all this kind of stuff. So there's kind of a lot of layers there that come to it.
There are people that are critiquing it for being the price that it is and whatever, and would have preferred something significantly cheaper, and it's a tough one because again, I also get that there is a kind of a layer of, I hate this word, but kind of like luxury products that clearly there is an appetite for that. Do you know what I mean? And there is that kind of level or whatever that a lot of collectors are happy to go to. I've seen people sort of talking about it like, oh, maybe it should be more inclusive and this kind of stuff. And I'm kind of like, yeah, but there's a lot of toys that are released every year. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, at some point, it's no surprise to me that they want to kind of push the upper echelon of that a little bit. Do you know what I mean? And kind of bring in some of that sort of top tier money or whatever. To me, that's what a lot of businesses do, not just toys. And I can see why they're doing that, So it's a really tough one because I get the kind of inclusivity angle of it, but I also understand and I think there is a market for this as well, what they're trying to do. So that's a really tough one. I think the crowdfund thing itself causes a lot of ire, definitely. And I think that all the reasons that we talked about before, people not being able to get it in the window, and people are like, this could have been done at retail. I mean, that's what I was going to say earlier, is that I do think that, yes, it could have been done at retail, Liokaiser, but it would have been a very different product. It wouldn't have been the same product that we're seeing here.
That's not necessarily bad, though, is it? I think that's the other side of that coin, isn't it? I think there'll be people who don't like it and they want a different version, and it's like, now I'm not going to get a Liokaiser that might be different, like the Combiner Wars toy, isn't it? It's not necessarily that one's bad. It's just, I don't know. I think it's like a cauldron of things, isn't it? Like
it's exactly that.
A lot of complaints.
I think that's it. I think people, in a weird way, want to be sort of impressed by a Haslab,
but everybody wants what they exactly want.
Yes,
I think that's
it. That's it.
This isn't what I wanted, so it sucks.
It doesn't cater to my personal preference,
and it's supposed to be the peak version, so therefore it's wrong as well.
Yeah, and then it's going to be another year before the next one's released. You know?
Out of interest, are the Haslabs Takara involved in those, or is it just?
Yes,
they are.
It's Hasbro. It's both.
Yeah, it's both. Yeah. Right. Okay, then. Yeah, because that's the thing as well, and that is worth considering, right? Which is the fact that this is, well, we've just seen it, haven't we? Because it was, the number back has kind of slightly slowed down. but then was it that it opened up in China and then suddenly
Well,
it jumped?
Yes and no. So this whole thing of the backers is interesting as well, because there's been a perception online, particularly from some of the folks that have been quite vocal about it, saying, "Oh, it's not doing very well." I'd seen this opinion expressed, where people are like, "It's underperforming" or whatever. Firstly, I will say 4,000 plus backers in 24 hours is really good. The record of any Haslab is Omega Prime. That's the best performing Haslab in any fandom, like Star Wars, everything. And
Really?
that hit, that's the number one Haslab.
That's
overall.
amazing.
To be fair, none of the others seem to move like the Transformers ones.
They've sort of got to a real groove with the Transformers ones, I
What
think.
was the first one? The Jabba's sail barge, wasn't it? That was the
I think
very
it was,
first one,
yeah.
way back in the day.
Yeah. But so Omega Prime is the best performing overall, and that hit just under 5,000 backers in its first day, 24 hours. So actually, to go plus 4,000 is really good, first of all.
Yeah.
It has not quite met the curve of like Deathsaurus and Victory Saber. And actually, you can look all of this up online. There's a site called geekdadlife.com, and really good site. And they
I'm enjoying the stats.
Yeah,
this
put
is
together
cool.
Old Stato over here.
Oh man, I love some stats. I was
Stat my
looking at
bitch
it.
up.
This, yeah, exactly. This is like giving me a lot of stat joy. Honestly, I was looking at these graphs and things, and I was like, "Oh, this is appealing to me in a very kind of weird way."
You are a man of admin, aren't you? You really are.
I do
Wizard
like
of the
a man of
spreadsheet.
data.
I do like a
It's all data.
spreadsheet,
Savant,
data.
yeah.
Yeah, I do like.
Why does he not have a database? This is what I don't understand.
I bet he does.
I'm a bit of a dichotomy, you see, because I'm a very kind of creative, artsy person, but I also do like a spreadsheet. I've got to tell you.
They go
A
hand
nice
in hand.
artsy spreadsheet. Yeah, exactly. It appeals to the other side of my brain. But I really like what he's done, because they've tracked, obviously kind of the various projects and kind of comparing them. And you can see, if you zoom in, that actually, Liokaiser is really not that far off where like Victory Saber and Deathsaurus were tracking. Like, it is behind, but only sort of nominally behind. The curve is not going up quite as much, but it's still like well on track to fund. Let's put it that way. But then you get these Taobao backers, because clearly what also happens with Haslabs is that they have, there is a whole point about distribution. So just to kind of give a bit of background on this before I kind of make the point, I would say that the other big negative about Haslabs is distribution, because Pulse is not available worldwide. Like, it's predominantly North America, bits of Europe, but not all of Europe. And then past that, they need to partner with retailers to get this stuff moved out. And sometimes that works and other times it doesn't. So that's why like Victory Saber was a bit of a car crash with like Xavi over most of Europe.
God. Yeah.
Actually didn't fulfill the orders and things like this. And a lot of people were left without a toy, basically.
Yeah.
So it was bad. Really, really bad. And, when they launched Unicron initially, it was just North America. So even us in the UK, we were like, well, what?
I remember.
How do we get it then? So I think they're kind of getting better with each one. And now this one, it seems that they've made a deal with a partner in Australia, for example. And actually, a lot of Aussies are saying, "Oh, we're kind of surprised because the price is not so bad." Like, I think they were expecting to really have to pay through the nose for it, and it looks like generally the reaction to that has been okay. It's been pretty positive.
How much is it? It's like $7,000 in it, because that's what's that. It's like about 3 pence to a pound in Australia.
Right. It's one of those. It's one of those where you look at the Australian dollar amount and you're like, whoa, and then you realize that the conversion is actually, it's okay. It's not too bad.
They don't have wallets; they just have backpacks of money.
I assume they just carry all their money in a little kangaroo pouch or something. I don't know. But,
oh no!
Oh, they'll be hopping mad after this.
Oof, yeah, exactly.
Oh, no.
We've
got Australian patrons. Careful,
I know. Yeah, I'm thinking of people like Chris Carnage and things like this. I don't want to get on the wrong side of Chris Carnage. Yeah. But clearly, distribution is still a factor, and so a lot of people still can't get access to these things. So as well as the window and the time, I would say that distribution is the other big negative of Haslabs. Personally, from my perspective, I think that is something that they need to work out. But so sorry, going long-winded thing, but clearly they have worked out a deal for this one with Taobao for China, and so the Chinese orders came in and it got over 3,000 within like an hour, literally within the first hour, or two, whatever it was. And so those 3,000 orders, when you add it to the 4,600-700 or so that it's got on Pulse, means that actually it's over 75% funded already. This thing,
already,
which is incredible. And if that is,
has it been a week? It's not been a week, has it?
No. About 5 days. So if that is accurate, which it seems to be, that means that it is currently the best performing Haslab of all time, which is incredible.
Yeah, that is incredible. Yeah.
There will also be Takara do it through Takara Tomy Mall, and that's why you get little dumps, and you'll see it on Geek Dad Life's graphs for previous Haslabs that you get a sudden spike in orders, and those are where the international backers come in and they put a little dump of numbers in, and then it suddenly spikes. So I feel very confident that this will fund, but
and so they've not been added yet, those ones. So potentially that's due.
No,
and then that could push it over already, because it needs 10,000, doesn't it, for the first tier to get back
10,000 to back. Yes, just for the basic no Death Cobra.
Wow.
So it looks like it should at this stage.
It will get Death Cobra at least. I hope it gets the nunchucks. I think they should have been included with the toy, like the gun with Star Saber.
That should not have been a tier, in my opinion. But yes, I
think the weapons should just automatically come with the toy. I don't feel like they're a tier. I think that's a little bit cheeky.
Yeah, I know. Does the original G1 have that?
Who wants the stand? Stop giving us stands.
They love a stand.
I'm not worried about the stand. Not worried about the stand. The original toy doesn't have the nunchucks. No.
Right. Okay.
It's just got like a little gun thing.
But the cartoon, he uses them.
He does use it. It's a cartoon thing.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Yeah.
So the distribution factor is a key point, but coming back to the kind of the performance of the thing, then it's interesting because actually this is doing really well, and I think the perception from some people has been, and it's the people that kind of are anti it, that it's not doing well. And so I think that's really interesting. I have actually seen people wishing that this fails, which to me is like, I've seen people going like,
again,
I hope it
they're
fails.
fun at Christmas, Oh my goodness.
I've seen that opinion expressed.
I hope Santa gets stuck in a chimney somewhere.
I know, like the
Gremlins
presents. Story. I know. But that's awful.
There's almost this feeling from some quarters of that they want it to fail so that Hasbro take a message from it. That like then they hear that this is not what the fans want and they make it cheaper or whatever. And the thing is,
it's not
but they won't do that.
No,
the only message they'll take is like, Transformers fans don't want
this.
kind of the higher end, stuff like this. They just want cheap retail stuff.
Well, this is the thing. The thing I don't get right is that like you've got Titans retailing at like $200, £200 or whatever, and so I know that this is a step above that, but it's not. It's not like where would you put it then? Do you know what I mean? Like if you. It's really tough to say, and I feel bad in a way, but you either want these products to exist or you don't. And to me, like even if I didn't have access to them, I can't imagine sitting there thinking, well, I actively don't want them to exist then because
for
I
everybody.
Can't have it,
Yeah,
exactly. Do you know what I mean?
I imagine that comes from a place though with a lot of people. Well, a lot of people with people who feel like that. It's more of like if it doesn't exist, then I can't miss out on it. You know what I mean? It's something that
the collector
missed out on yet. Yeah, then a chance will come back around. Either they'll redo this or a cheaper version or something. But if and it's just that missing out feeling. They don't want to miss out on something, so it becomes I hope it fails, so I don't miss out on it.
Do you think?
Yeah, I think there'll be an element of that from some people. I think that's where a lot of this sort of stuff comes from, and it's ironic, isn't it? Because this is a crowdfund, and a crowdfund, like the idea of it is it's supposed to bring fans,
people together,
as a community to get them excited and back in something. And here it's like we're talking about the bloody Helm's Deep or something's going on.
It really is. It has caused. I mean, I've seen, as I said earlier, I've seen insults being thrown over this and all kinds, which is kind of it's been a bit disappointing.
That's not the community that I know, and that's not the people in this fandom that I know.
It is though. I think all fandoms are like this. It is just.
But I live in my nice little happy vibes place, Liam. Everyone loves each other.
Scotland.
It's like that Groundskeeper Willie meme about, it's not a meme originally, but it's become a meme, about damn Scots, they ruined Scotland. And it's the same. It's like Transformers fans hate Transformers, apparently.
I know, this is what's happening. And want to destroy it for everyone else as well.
Yeah.
There is. I've seen some comments from people that I know really well that made fair points, which was a bit kind of like, this is making it out of reach for people. And the thing that I don't personally like is that then Haslabs now seem to be kind of people are getting them in bulk and then get them and then sell them on for astronomical rates beyond that as well. So you get the secondary.
Yeah,
but having said that,
I get that
happens across all of them and other lines and everything as well, because we live in a capitalist world, basically. And it comes down to that.
We are, yeah. That is unfortunate. I would say, honestly, this is a tough one, because I do agree. And the thing is, people talk about scalpers. I don't think it's scalping necessarily in this case. And I'm not supporting it. I'm not supporting people going and buying them and then jacking up the price. I don't think that's right. But at the same time, if someone is going to buy 5 of them, then you're funding more getting made. If you don't do that, because it's 5 maximum, 5 is the maximum order. If you don't do that, less are getting made. So the people that can't back it in the window, in a weird way, if people are not doing that, then you're never going to get one later down the line. If everybody just orders one for their own personal collection, do you know what I mean? I'm not supporting the practice.
Get rich or Liokaiser trying.
There we go. Boom.
I could see you were working on something there.
Again, there was the indicator.
The wheels were turning.
Someone's cooking.
I could see it.
Someone's cooking. But okay,
Voice from the dwarf.
So it would be nice if I could afford it, which I can't. Everyone listening, but if I could, and those people that were like bad mouthing it and want it to fail for everybody, and I'd bought 5, I'd be like, you can buy one off me when you can afford it. That would be the thing. So it's like, would that person then change their mind? Because is it what you're saying, Liam, about the fact that people are just like frustrated? Which it would be frustrating if you like absolutely love that character and can't get it because you can't afford it, and that would feel unfair, right? Because it's behind this
and
paywall.
The current economic climate is nightmarish, isn't it?
It is horrible.
Everything is expensive, and I think this coming in as a thing that you've basically just got a month to get ready for.
Yeah, that is a nightmare. That what you said earlier, Sixo, about that. Yeah,
I think the element of like Haslab is a victim of this, just the timing, not this toy in particular, but just the general timing. Because a lot of these complaints come up each time, and rightly so as well. And I think in some ways, I think it's a good conversation that But like you said earlier about the luxury thing, that's what they are. So
that's the thing. They are a luxury. I also think as well that I'm going to say 2 things. Firstly, I think that complaint was the most relevant when it was Deathsaurus, because they announced it like a couple of weeks before Christmas or whatever it was. The backing ended just before Christmas, and that was like, come on. I will also say that I do know that they heard that and they were like, whoops. Do you know what I mean? And that's why they've changed it.
There's no perfect time either.
No, and there'll always be something. I mean, I would say launching it in February right after tax season is also brilliant, but like, hey, what are you going to do?
That's just for us lot, though.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah. But it's a really tough one, because it is a luxury item in a world and a sphere of luxury items, right? Like, so I feel like, again, there are layers to this, because anybody saying, oh, but it's not fair because, I can't get it and it shouldn't exist or whatever. But then there'll be someone, as I said earlier, there'll be someone further down the rung that can't get the next Titan release, or there'll be someone further down the rung that can't afford Commander class, and there'll be someone further down the rung that can't afford anything, and they wait for the figures to go on deep discount and just pick up whatever they can for like a tenner, So there's always going to be, I think, when you're into the sphere of like collecting children's toys, it's all a bit of a luxury to some extent. I'm not saying that do you know what I'm not discounting that opinion and I'm not writing it off, but I can also see that clearly there is a market for this sort of upper echelon, higher price point product, right? And that's what they're tapping into at the end of the day. And they're, as you said, it's capitalism. They're a commercial company. Of course, they're going to want some of that coin. So,
although I'd love to be able to get Hasbro back on, and it would be really interesting if they were happy to share. It's like, even just what you were saying earlier is like, do they really make money, or is this for them? Is this purely an R&D process for toy development and also for their customer base, to understand that as well, because there's a bunch of other stuff that's happening behind the scenes, but what they're doing, like, we don't have it in hand yet, but have they done something with Liokaiser that we're going to get it in hand and be like, oh, this is new, and it then ends up being in that mainstream stuff as well. So then you're funding that part of it.
But Sixo, so just to roll back a second, where you just said there, like, there's a market for this, there's an echelon and stuff like that. But do you think that market is Generations? Because I think this also is part of the problem here, is that I think for people like us, it's affordable, but Generations isn't Masterpiece. It's not pitched.
Yeah,
that Masterpiece has always been pitched as that's the collector, higher end, expensive line for people. Generations is your more accessible line for everybody. Whereas some of the toys are expensive, but they're not astronomically expensive. They are depending on your means and your circumstances. That's always
that's a really
within reason.
I was going to bring up the same
generally
point.
within reach.
Yeah. It's a really valid, it is.
That's and these are pitched as Generations, and I think that's where this gets to people, because a lot of us, like, the way these things are targeted is as collectors, and so they are like, here's this, and people will collect these lines, and suddenly for some people this toy moves out of their range, of what they can afford, and it's like,
completely.
Well,
and
I'm collecting this line, I can't get this toy. There will be an element of that as well, and I just think it's kind of changing what Generations is.
Yeah. Well, I think there was an element of that with that Grimlock Deathsaurus retool idea, that people were like, actually, I would have preferred this because then I could just have the character. Like, I couldn't have afforded the Haslab, but I could have potentially afforded this. So yeah, I completely get that, and I think that's a very it's an interesting point. I equally understand why they do it this way. Do you know what I mean? And clearly the appeal is there for this kind of item again. This is what I would say, but it makes sense that people would feel that way.
Yeah, because that thing we say about Masterpiece, where we're like, people, you buy a character to fill a spot. That same thing will exist in Generations like that, won't it? And so you are taking these characters out of reach for people. I think. I think that's the thing with Generations. It's not a budget line, but it feels like a very different budget to a Masterpiece line, and it's kind of always been that kind of acceptance that Masterpiece is where you go for that very expensive fix. Generations.
Yeah, that's absolutely a fair point.
I can understand that criticism and critique from people.
I mean, all of this, I think this is the thing. All of this is shades of grey, right? Like, there's no... I don't think any of the points... And
do you mean alternate universe Optimus Prime?
Right, exactly, yeah. Very good. He's dead, Jim. But no, all of this... all of this is shades of grey, in the respect that, we're talking quite... sort of vociferously or vocally about a lot of these points and saying, well, it's this way or that or the other. The reality is that I think that, not to be like some sort of dirty centrist or anything, but seeing both sides, but you can appreciate both sides of the coin as well, can't you? You can see that actually, you can see why these products exist for the people that want them. You can also understand 100% why the people that maybe it's out of reach for would be disappointed that they can't get their hands on it as well. And frustrated and annoyed and, a whole gamut of emotions. Disappointed, exactly. Yeah. And I think all of these things are fair enough, is the point. And it's also entirely fair enough for the people that just don't like the thing. And do you know what I mean? Totally cool.
That's all fine. That is all fine. But what I'm not a fan of is when people are either attacking other collectors or dissing it. That's just not my vibe.
Absolutely.
Right?
Or
it's
the design team. And,
exactly. Yeah. And it's like, and the thing is now, we talked about this when we were looking at 2025 and what the 40th was. Unless you are making a ridiculous amount of coin, you are not buying every single Transformer release figure in last year, let alone this year and beyond, right? Because there's so much product available now as well. So there's a lot to choose from. There's a lot of different price points. There's a lot available across everything. And it's interesting what you're saying, Liam, about the fact that the Masterpiece was seen as that uber expensive line and stuff like that. But is that what Haslab is supposed to be? That is it like a more mass market appeal for or unique figures from the cartoon that we're looking at, or it's like because they could go down the route of creating ridiculously accurate Masterpiece figures using diecast and all this kind of stuff that are really premium and thing. But
I
in
think
my
the
mind,
thing
that's
is that,
super niche, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the numbers on Masterpiece sales will not be the same as Generation sales, is the reality. So
that's,
what you're doing by making, if you made like Haslab Masterpiece, you'd be taking something that is already a bit of a niche and creating
and making it smaller
out of it.
Yeah,
exactly. So I get why they do it this way as well, rightly or wrongly, and clearly the appeal is there, as I say. I think one thing that is interesting, just, talking about like the price and the window and the sort of availability of this stuff that I would say is that it's not. The big thing is the 45 days initially that people kind of have versus, when, like you said, Liam, if something's on pre-order, you've potentially got sometimes 6 months, to kind of think about it and all of this, sometimes. But other than that, it's not that different. Like the resale value of these, strip Unicron completely to one side, right? The resale value and the kind of price hike is not that unprecedented on these. So, like, I did some maths earlier, right? And this is interesting.
Ooh,
this is
back to his stats.
Spreadsheet and maths. What? It's a
I did a bit of
episode.
research.
Yeah,
Did a bit of research because the one
The
complaint
Ayatollah of admin over here.
very nice. Paint me in such a romantic light, honestly. But someone's going to organise this podcast.
It's
but
true.
The point is.
The Wizard of Word.
Yeah.
Are you the paperclip? Is that what happened to him?
Some say it was modelled on me.
Takeover.
The Triple Takeover paperclip. But so the thing is, the common complaint people have. I'm moving on. The common complaint people have is that once they're out of reach, once they're backed or whatever, that you can't get these things anymore, right? And that if it was retail, you would still be able to. So it's like people are like, oh, well, that's moved on now, Deathsaurus, whatever, it's out of sight. I can no longer get it because it's going to just cost me an arm and a leg. But actually, I did some research. I did look into this. So for, let's say, Deathsaurus, right, was $180. So I'm going to talk in dollars for a minute. So it was $180 when it was in the 45-day backer window or whatever it was. It now goes for around $250, $255, something like that. Some are more expensive, some are less. So I'm kind of doing a big, finger in the air average here. I haven't looked through hundreds of listings or anything like that. I have seen them go for cheaper. I have seen them go for more. So I'm going to say roughly $250, $255-ish, okay, that they kind of sell for. And you might think that that's quite a lot more. It's about $76, $75 more than the original asking. And that is a 42% price hike based on what it originally sold for. So that's quite a bit. It's quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, something like Legacy Nemesis sold for $200 originally, and it now sells for $300 plus, believe it or not. And that is a 50% price hike.
Wow.
So I'm not saying that that's obviously one example, Legacy Nemesis, and a lot of stuff does go on deep discount. Of course it does. But I suppose my point here is that it's no guarantee that if these were released at retail, that they would just suddenly be widely available and everyone would be able to get hold of them. There are plenty of retail products that struggle with distribution.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing is if Liokaiser was released as, 6 or 7 bots, potentially some of those would really, look at Legacy Breakdown that no bugger could find. Nobody could find it. Yeah. And people are paying, I've seen people paying.
I got it.
I know you did, and I got mine in the gift set, but I've seen people genuinely paying $150 more, $200 or some crazy prices for Legacy Breakdown.
But that's what happens, isn't it? Springer. I was looking up until recently. Thank you to old Grand Moff of Primetime Toys, one of our patrons, who sorted me out after hearing me talk about it on this
really?
podcast.
Oh, that's cool.
My struggles to get to I was really grateful. Yeah, he gave me one for RRP, which is a fantastic thing because when you look online, like this thing now, it's I was looking at 85 quid, and that's a new toy. That is in 6 months of release. Was it June last year or something? It just seemed to come out here and just, I don't think it even came out here.
And that is, by the way, is about a 70-ish% markup percentage, and I think you do have to think in percentage terms. You can't just say, it's roughly 30, 35 quid more than it was. Percentage wise, that's around 70% markup, which is a lot. That's more than what we're talking about for Deathsaurus is the point.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that the Haslab ones, well, I'm not surprised, sorry. I was surprised by how Star Saber and Deathsaurus were both available after they dropped at sort of the same price they were going for. 'Cause I wonder if that sort of demonstrates the actual true sort of market ceiling for those characters. If they'd put those at retail, whether they'd have been the shelf warmers like a Black Shadow or whatever. What was it? Sky Shadow, as they called him.
Sky Shadow.
That's a mutilated name.
Yeah.
But Black Shadow, as we all know him. But like I say, he was £5 in the Entertainer. Those characters sit. And so I think, to go back to the stuff that you were saying earlier, I think there's a point here with Haslab and these character choices. Some of them, it'll be through necessity because doing them in a mainline is probably, they'd be so hard to sell.
Yeah.
And they're almost guaranteed shelf warmers. And I think seeing that really opened my eyes for those two characters, how they were just freely available for months.
They still are. I mean, I saw
the same price.
I saw a Deathsaurus sold on a Japanese site the other day. I'll tell you how much it was, actually. Let's have a quick...
I saw a Star Saber in the weeks after release. I saw two go for below the price they originally sold for.
The below the backer price.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Deathsaurus that I was talking about actually is missing a couple of accessories. So maybe it's not the best example. I think it's missing, at least one or two pieces in there. It's funny because on the Japanese sites, it's often kind of translated as like Death the Raz, which...
Hey, we love Raz.
Well, exactly. I'm like, whoa, what's he done to you? Do you know what I mean? But it was so it was going for 33,000 yen, which is about 170 pounds. So
that's
retail. And that's missing a couple of bits. Of course, it is. Oh no! This one is unopened. This is a sealed one for 33,000 yen. So there you go, retail in Japan. So you'd have to get it shipped over. But that's my point. Is if you go looking for this stuff, it is there.
It's available.
And it is, And eBay, I used eBay for my examples, but eBay, as we know, is not the best place to get this stuff very often.
No,
it's often the most convenient.
It's just convenient.
Yeah, exactly. It's not the place to get bargains and things like that. So I don't know. I suppose my point is that I don't think that just making this stuff retail guarantees that it's suddenly widely accessible to everybody. No. Because we know that's not true. We've seen plenty of examples of retail stuff that isn't widely accessible and suddenly goes through the roof, more than the Haslabs have, actually. And that's not really disputable because the evidence for it is right there, So, quite interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Definitely.
Do you know, as you've been talking about that, I don't think I have breakdown.
Oh, no.
I've just realised. And I've been just thinking, did I pick that up? Or did I think that, it's a blur? You know what I'm like with my memory, but I have no idea. Because with the whole chat we were having about you getting it in the collected edition and stuff like that, but I'm like, I'm not sure I got that guy. I'm not going to go and look now either. That sounds awful. Why do I have to be missing the little guy that is really expensive? This is the problem, It's not fair.
Yeah, that is a problem.
You get to hear Jason have a breakdown live.
I know. Hey,
we did those jokes. We did those jokes already. Don't need to do it again, God's sake.
It is
a bit of a dead end, them jokes, aren't they?
Well, yeah, I've got that guy. But the thing about this is that, one, you cannot predict which figure or figures are going to go, I have no idea why. Like, why is breakdown? Is it just because there was a really limited release of that figure? Did the stock go in the wrong direction? And it's like what you were saying earlier, Sixo. It's not as simple that just because it goes to retail. And the big things like Nemesis, I was always tempted by that, and I was waiting for it to be heavily reduced to get it as well.
A lot of people were.
How far did it go? I remember seeing it for about 120 at one point.
Yeah, so it did go down a bit.
Yeah, it didn't go as much as some of the others, like the Metroplex, Cybertron Metroplex.
Triptychon as well, 30 quid on Triptychons. Remember those days?
Oh, that's amazing, isn't it? That's just unbelievably good.
And now that's coming back at £6,000 or something, wasn't
it? Yeah, exactly.
So actually, do you know that? So that is a retail release, isn't it? And that is a chunk of coin right there for that. So it doesn't need to be a Haslab necessarily to be a lot of money.
No,
but it is that will be one that I'll just wait and see if it does end up. Maybe it'll end up in game. Yeah. Where was it? Was it game you found it? Did you get it for that 30 quid? You didn't, did you?
No, I didn't. But that was in America, wasn't it? It was.
Was it? $30, right?
Yeah, one of those discount places.
Yeah, I got mine for 35, something like that.
Target or Walmart or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Mythical like a fancy way of saying Target and Walmart.
Right. Yes, exactly. These stores that we know so much about but never actually see or go to. So, but it is a fair point. I suppose. Look, a lot of this conversation, I feel like I've been on one a little bit and kind of getting a bit ranty, but I'm kind of almost playing devil's advocate with a lot of it as well, and just trying to make, I suppose, what is the sort of counterpoint to a lot of what you see online. Do you know what I mean? And I do understand a lot of the frustration and all of that kind of stuff, but I think logically, I just can't bring it. I don't have it within me to kind of look and see this as like Hasbro being evil or anything like that by doing this, really. Do you know what I mean? Because it makes sense from my perspective of why they're doing it. And actually, it's not that these things suddenly disappear off the face of the earth or whatever else, and there are always going to be things that are out of reach for people. And I mean, I would argue that £200 Titans that to me is like that in a way more egregious. You know what I mean? Like I find that a little bit more like, what are we doing here? Do you know what I mean? That we've got a product on retail shelves, but sort of aimed at children or what have you, that costs £200. That to me is like more.
Who's buying that?
That should be more the point that raises a bit of ire than a £300 Haslab, in my opinion.
I think it does. It just gets magnified here because the price is higher.
The one figure that I see a lot that's Titan class that keeps popping up that gets resold is the Ark as well.
Mm-hmm.
That one. Yeah. I'm seeing loads of friends of ours and people are just getting rid of it and they've experienced it and it's just like,
done with it.
Yeah, and they're just done with it. It's really interesting as well. And that was really, when that came out, there was a lot of excitement about that. But people have just lost interest in it because it is just a big lump of plastic in the corner of the room, So
it is a bit.
Yeah,
it's definitely prices within the retail line, though. I think it's the scale, isn't it? I think it's where you sort of look at these things, and I'm always like, now, like £35 for a Voyager. I find that more egregious than £300 for a Haslab.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it depends on your point of view, isn't it? Like the way we look at it, I think we're all quite similar. Like we can look at it and we kind of rationalize it, and you go, yeah, it makes sense because we've been around Masterpiece. With all these things, you're kind of older, and I think we're all quite lucky in that we can just about afford these things or this thing. But I think that's it. I think it's easier to rationalize. Like you can look at it from a business again. It did cost this, but even like when you break it down for cost per cost, actually, if it Dev Cobra comes with it, it's not that bad compared to.
It's not that bad.
No.
Well, if it was,
that's a lot of figure.
Just the 6, that's £50 a figure, and you're like, for what? It's effectively what Voyager class size bots. Like it's a little bit of a markup. It goes to 7. You're like, it's starting to come back down toward the Constructicons here.
Well, that's the thing. That is the point. I think we worked it out that the Constructicons all in Devastator, if you got it in one hit, it would be sort of 220, something like that. I think it was around that mark, if you added it up. And again, when you factor in that, no doubt, I'm sure there will be making more than like 20,000 Devastators. Do you know what I mean? It'll be done in higher volumes and all of this significantly. So for Hasbro, they'll be making more margin off Devastator ultimately and shifting more units as well. So, win-win in that regard. So it is an interesting comparison. I guess the point is that if Liokaiser was akin to Devastator and at retail you could get it separately, so you could get all the 6 individual releases, you wouldn't have to pay it all in one lump sum, is the thing.
And it'd be spread across waves.
Yeah, exactly. But then again, you maybe couldn't track some of them down, or I don't know. It's 6 of one and half a dozen of another, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, but it's a different ask. It's popped up on major retailers, Devastator figures as well,
right.
So that it's going to be it's getting a mass release. You don't need to be like, I've not pre-ordered that. I'm not going to bother pre-ordering that. I'm going to see if it turns up. I really want it. I do this to myself sometimes. It's exciting. But the
Studio Series ones.
Yeah, the Studio Series ones. Yeah,
I've pre-ordered them all. I'm just getting it out the way.
Yeah. But this is the thing, isn't it? Because it's about the way that we all want to buy, and we all want to. I really love going into my local toy shop, like a Smith's or whatever, seeing it on the shelf and grabbing it and choosing to buy it as well. But I am also
pushing some kids out of the way.
Yeah, normally my own son. It's like, go and read books. I need this toy.
Chicken grannies.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. Buy that really rubbish Bumblebee. But the thing is, what you said a minute ago, Sixo, about the cost of these things. Gears, the legacy figure Gears, which I love the look of. Everyone raves about it, all this kind of stuff. But it's $24.99, I think, or is it more?
Yeah.
Anyway, it just seems too much to me at the moment, and I'm like,
I'm with you.
Come down in price, please. And if I think of like being a parent and having to buy that for my son, you're getting one figure, right? It's the Transformers line is a lot more expensive when you see it in a toy shelf compared to everything else as well.
Yeah, it can be expensive.
So
I agree with you.
It's not just
there's a lot of stuff that. No, it's not. There's a lot of stuff that retails for around the 25 mark or 50 mark or whatever it is that I'm like, no. Do you know what I mean? There's no way.
Yeah.
And it's not that. it's not that I don't think they're good or whatever. That's not the point. It's just the point of what you consider as value for money, I guess.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's the
it.
point. Like, value for money is the thing. Because I'll be honest, I look at Liokaiser and I think, even if I had nitpicks about it, like the backpack, I think could have a cover on it. The arms, I think, could have covers on them. Fine. I acknowledge all of those points. I still think it looks value for money, in my opinion. I look at it and I think, yes, it's expensive, but I can see what you get for it and whatever else. Whereas there are times where something that might only cost 25 or 50, and I think, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm the same with core class figures. Like some of those, when they were like 10, 13 quid, you still
It's
look at them and go,
true.
Yeah.
And I was like, this feels like, well, in my mind, it's still like a £5 toy.
That's it.
£5
So
toy,
that's it. Do you know the thing about the Haslabs as well, though, is that they are like everyone that I've got. So I've got them all except Unicron so far, and every single one has been a really fun, really enjoyable experience to unbox. They are.
That's true.
Even that part of it's premium, right? The artwork, the level of work that goes into that part of it. And that is another part of being a collector across lots of different fandoms as well. And that takes a ton of work, Hasbro's side, to get that to work well and look good. And that whole experience, of taking it out of the box, how it's presented in the box, the first impression of it, all that. And they do put a lot of effort into that, in my opinion, for the Haslabs.
Yeah, I would say so.
It's underappreciated. Like Evan and the team, like what they do with those boxes, because everyone just talks about the toys, but when you see like the love that has gone into putting those boxes together, the way things are laid out, even in the boxes, and you're like, it's all spot on. Like it's beautiful.
Great.
It's such a amazing thing to open. Like
it really was. There were some problems with Victory Saber, of course. Again, because the chrome was scuffed.
Yeah, the tab went over it.
Yeah, that was unfortunate. That was really unfortunate.
Yeah. But that's an accident, isn't it? That's just kind of like a misstep that they would have groaned about and gone, But like the overall package and stuff, like you just look at it.
Overall, it is really good. Yeah, I think there were a few.
It's an experience in itself.
A few missteps on Victory Saber. Mine had a little loose antenna and stuff like that, which is a bit of a shame. But c'est la vie. Sometimes these things happen. I'm not excusing it.
Not that you hold a grudge about it. Look, ask him. What's going on about this?
I'm vaguely mentioning it.
Calm down. God, it's going to get violent, Jason.
I'm flushed. I'm really angry about it, obviously.
Although, in a minute.
I'm going to rage quit.
Yeah, go on. End of session.
Transformers. Garbage hobby.
Antenna.
Trash.
It's
trash.
Yeah, it's rubbish.
Crap.
Leaky lube.
Hasbro. Hasbro. You dumb
Jason's like, where's the vibes, guys?
I know, where's the nice vibes? Oh no. There is definitely a point there, though, underneath all the abuse, which is I promise that when you're getting something like this, and if there is an issue with it, because they're on very limited run, and I have seen people talk about this on the forums and stuff like that, then you are a little bit stuck because I can't remember which line it was, but people that I know in the fandom were just like, the only option was like, send it back, we'll refund you. There was no, we can fix that or replace that.
They didn't have any extras. Yeah.
So that is something. It's a bit of a killer.
Yeah, in the case of Victory Saber, it wasn't just that, because they do have extras. I mean, like, I think it was Unicron, they suddenly made a few available and it was like 10 or something. They have made extra.
That's right.
For customer care and what have you.
Victory Saber is different, wasn't it? Because there were a lot
there were so many,
because, like you say, with the Zavi problems, but there were also some that were damaged, weren't they?
There was a water damage problem.
I forget were less.
Forget where it was, but there was a particular, I think it was through a distributor or something. There was a warehouse and a lot of them got damaged or destroyed or whatever. And they basically had to conjure up a lot of extra additional units on what they had sort of forecast for. So it was a bit of a mess for them generally, I think. I mean, Deathsaurus by comparison went a lot smoother. And I think that's been really good. But the other thing I would say about the price and all of that is that I've mentioned this little adage on the podcast before, but I feel like it is worth bringing back because ultimately, yes, these are very expensive products. But what I would always think of in this sort of circumstance is advice that my dear old departed grandmother once gave me, which was that it's not always about the asking price of something. It's the price per use. And she used to talk about clothes in this way. I have mentioned this on the pod before, by the way. But basically, she said that, she talked about clothes a lot, and she would say it's not so much about what something costs. Like, you could spend £50 on a jumper, and if you wear it 50 times, it's £1 per wear. Or you could spend £10 on a jumper, and if you only wear it once, it's £10 per wear. And I think that is so relevant sometimes with these kinds of things, because something like Deathsaurus, I have had so much play value out of that. Like, it's been a figure that has really dominated my attention since I got it. And even now, all right, he's on his little throne on a shelf over there, but he's like right there in the center of the display. Love it. I do still pick it up a lot, transform it a lot,
It's the
and
best
maybe
stand.
it's so good. It's so
How you
good.
do a stand.
Yeah.
Genuinely, yes, it really is. Is genuinely, in my opinion, a pretty perfect transformer. Like, it's just so good. It hits all the right notes for me. It's exactly what I would have wanted it to have been in so many ways. I think it's so brilliant. And so to me, it's a big asking price, but at the same time, the experience of it and everything feels, as I said earlier, it feels value for money because of the amount of use that I get out of it and all of that kind of stuff. And there will be stuff that I know costs 25 quid. I might only, look at a couple of times and it's done.
Yeah.
So
it's a really good point.
Factor all of that in.
It's a great way to look at it. My partner says the same thing as well about with the like buying something and quite often about like clothes and stuff like that. But when she's thinking about like, but if I get this, I'm going to use it like every day or whatever.
Exactly.
Out of it. But the other thing as well, when you said that, I'm just thinking about my original G1 Bumblebee that I bought from H Ducks in Wiltshire when I was 7 years old. I think Hasbro at this point should be giving me money back, because I've played with that toy so much that it must be in like negative by now. It's like 0.00001 pence because I love it so much. But it's interesting, isn't it, that you could find that with a Haslab, but you can equally find it with a mini Autobot, or you could find it with a little bot or whatever. And that's the beauty of it. That's the point of it, that it's the fun and what you get out of it. And if it doesn't hit that note, it's a really lovely way to look at anything that you're getting and how you're enjoying it. Really, that play value and the use of it. Yeah,
I completely agree. Completely agree with that. And again, all of this, I think this whole conversation should be kind of caveated. Maybe we should have done this at the beginning, but it should be caveated with the whole shades of grey. There's no right or wrong answer with any of this. It's ultimately, it's all opinions. It's all about if this sort of product is right for you or not. I don't think it's our place or anybody's place to say, oh, this is legitimately how it is or whatever. But I do think that there is also a lot of like very sort of almost quite incendiary reaction to this stuff as well. And I do think that the kind of negativity aspect of it has really been hyped up a little bit in this case.
That's a shame.
I would say.
Yeah,
that's a real shame.
It's sad you have to say that as well, though, isn't it? Like, it's sad that we have to have that conversation about it, because at the end of the day, these are products that's supposed to be fun, and it is like, for all the disappointment that some people might feel, you're like, but some of us really like it, and then
and that's okay.
It just kind of spoils it, doesn't it? It does. It's kind of like puts in a negative spin, and it's a shame, because again, it's a crowdfund. It should be something that fandom sort of comes together over, and I get why it doesn't work out that way. But it's just a shame that you end up in this kind of like space of, man, this glorious thing, I love it, but somebody else doesn't like it, and they just want to tell you about how much they don't like it.
That's the
like there are obviously, like we said, there are some valid points in discussion, but I think the vitriol and stuff, you're just like,
it's the vitriol,
boy, dude. Calm down.
Yeah, and again, that's the point that I don't want to lose, because I know inevitably someone will hear some of this discussion and be like, "Oh, I'm not allowed to give my opinion," and it's like, no, of course you are. Of course you are. That's give your opinion, absolutely. But it's the vitriol, and it's particularly the kind of personal attacks and name calling and all of that.
Yeah, that's never welcome.
Silly, silly.
We don't want that.
It's just really childish, But also the kind of like battle lines being drawn over it and everything. There was someone. I don't know who they were, but someone the other day that was saying to me about, oh no, it's good that people are so negative because it's holding Hasbro to account. It's like, yeah, I know. I was like,
I think Hasbro have got bigger problems, to be honest.
They're not your MPs, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. It was just such a funny point to make, because they were like, oh, it's good that there are like extremely positive and extremely negative views, like harsh, extreme negativity, because it holds Hasbro to account, and it like, this $1 billion company, we need to hold them to account or whatever. And I was like, firstly, I really feel like it's a silly point to make to kind of drag in the whole, you're supporting a $1 billion company thing, because it's like, nobody loves $1 billion companies. Nobody loves big corporations. We like the products that they make, you know?
I don't know. Nintendo.
All right,
Apple.
Maybe you and Nintendo.
No,
Maybe
no,
you and Nintendo.
not just me and Nintendo, but I mean, there are those
people
kind
do.
of companies.
Yes, all right.
But again, like you say, it's kind of ridiculous that people like to about companies, because like you can love a company, you can love its products, but holding it to account, what does that even mean?
It.
And I've seen people say that, and you're like, they're just trying to sell you toys at the end of the day.
Yeah, don't buy their toys, and that's how they get the message.
Be aware
ultimately,
of that,
you know? Yeah, exactly. You vote with your wallet. But I think it was funny because the implication was that like the extreme points of view are the ones that they'll listen to, and that like, you know, having some sort of like middle of the road light critique of things will just get ignored. And I was like, I can guarantee you with some certainty and knowledge of the situation that that's just not true, because, you know, these guys, firstly, anybody in like corporate world of Hasbro is not going to be out there reading what Johnny Bunch of Numbers on Twitter thinks of, you know, going Hasbro bunch of
like, oh no,
they're not going to be like, oh my god,
Haslab.
you know, exactly.
Don Draper isn't sat there in the pool,
Right,
in his corporate
imagine,
office or whatever, like scrolling up and down
You know?
Twitter going, oh man, freaking Steve Otron 69
Stephen Prime,
Liokaiser sucks, guys. We better call this whole project off here. Yeah.
This is a bunch of crap. Yeah,
I kind of love the idea that's how they run the businesses. A disaster.
Exactly. But we know that some of the design team and the Hasbro, the Transformers team do look at like reviews and things. We know that, and we know that they read stuff. Of course they do, but they also are not going to. They're going to read extremely negative stuff and just be put off by it. Is the fact? You know, it's not going to be. They're not out there canvassing people that are like talking about this being garbage and things like that. Yeah. It's just nonsense.
This stuff goes to the wrong people like that, because it goes to those guys and it doesn't go to the people at the top. It's like our only voice in all reality. Like when companies will always say, our fans mean everything and we listen. It's like, they don't. That's marketing speak. The only thing they listen to is the sound of your wallet. If you don't want something, don't buy it. That's the only choice you have. Buy or don't buy. That's your really way of making your voice heard. That's the only real way.
Yeah. And this podcast is sponsored by Hasbro that we've just told not to buy from.
Well, we're all a bunch of shills, you know. We're all like, I've been called a Hasbro shill before. I'm sure you guys are ultimate
Hasbro
it,
shill, aren't you?
Oh, absolutely. You've got to get me some of those Hasbro bucks, you know. So I'm sure they're arriving any day now.
Yeah, see? Got some Hasbro bucks, buddy.
Hasbro Monopoly money. Is that them?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. You can only spend it in Rhode Island, you know.
Yeah, and on their products.
But I think it is really important to circle back to that. Like that, these companies, man. Like, if you don't like it, just don't buy it. If you do, then and you can, and if you do and you can't, and it's. I think that's quite sad and it's unfortunate. But I don't know, man. It's like I'm happy it's being made.
Yeah,
but I can understand why some people might not be.
The other thing on the commenting though, as well, is, and this is what any creative team would want, right? Which is what the Hasbro team is: constructive criticism. Be constructive with your criticism.
Yes.
That's the important bit, right? Don't just badmouth it and just be vitriolic about it and all that kind of thing. You got constructive criticism. Yeah, it's just like we discussed the backpack and Hasbro. Please don't show us stuff next time with a creepy guy in the back with the in the prototype. It's better if you kind of get that stuff sorted. But constructive criticism. But yeah, just shouting and screaming and bad-mouthing and saying you're going to bring down a corporation because of reasons is not
because they made a product.
They made they did their job.
A product that they thought people might want. You know?
Exactly, and they do because it's getting backed. So.
Yeah, well, and that is the ultimate proof of the pudding for me, is that this thing is 75% backed at present time. And looks like it's going to fund. So I don't want to sound too silly, but it can't be that bad, really, can it? Like, no. I know someone will inevitably be like, oh, people like slop or whatever, and they like garbage, whatever. Go and hate your hobby somewhere else. I don't know, but the rest of us are quite happy with it,
Totally.
It's good to challenge big companies when they do something bad.
Of course it is.
Not so much when they just make a toy you don't
like.
Exactly.
Perspectives.
You know what I mean?
That's a very good way to put it. Absolutely.
I completely agree. I do also think, and look, just as a kind of final point, not every product has to be 100% perfect, right? Like there can be little perceived flaws or whatever, tiny little nitpickable details, and that's also okay, right? Like I think I could probably count on two hands the number of Transformers toys I think are genuinely, legitimately perfect. It's not many, certainly, because there's often something that's, like not the best about them or whatever. But
Studio Series 86 Hot Rod.
Oh,
we can
started on that thing, honestly.
It's been a long time since we've had this debate. It's been since Maz was here, since we used to poke you about that toy, and you used to be
that toy is
trash. You don't like it. But now you're a generations guy. I'm waiting. I'm waiting.
No,
it's going to happen.
The tide is not turning on that toy. No,
it is. It is.
It's okay. It's fine. It's perfectly.
Yeah.
It's fine.
It begins.
Try
the
harder.
Robot mode is really nice. The robot mode is really nice. I have some quibbles about the car mode, but even then, I would like to think that I'm able to express them without like insulting the mother of the person that designed it or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like wanting to Rhode Island to like float off into the sea and things like this. So I don't know. It's
old solutions.
The kind of insults. Well, exactly. Just levels of critique.
Yeah,
we have an unprecedented level of interaction and contact with like the design teams of these toys. Now, please let's not it up. Let's not wreck it. Like these guys, like man, they're all fans like we are, and they're such good people.
And they're nice people.
They're fans first.
They're lovely,
I would absolutely
lovely
agree.
People. Like Evan that is working on this project on Liokaiser. I can't think of anyone nicer and more passionate about Transformers. That I just think is such a decent dude. Do you know what I mean? And even if you don't like the toy, that's perfectly fine. But don't be rude about Evan. Come on,
he's lovely.
I mean?
He's really lovely,
exactly.
And he's got a really impressive Transformers collection as well.
He's doing Primus's work. This guy.
Yeah, exactly.
The Transformers will return after these messages.
Right, well, it's that time for the part of the pod where we talk about our sponsor. Finally, I think we've put Haslab to rights sufficiently. And now we are going to talk about our sponsor. So that is TF Source. And we're going to do what we always do, which is go on their site and look at what's kind of available for pre-order or in stock at the moment and just choose an item and kind of talk about it for a second. So, and in this case, it felt kind of relevant to look at the 2-pack of 86 Studio Series Constructicons. So that is Long Haul and Hook in a little Commander class pack there. What do you guys make of this?
Well, obviously I'm going to get it when I can find it at retail. I'll be honest.
Discount.
I hadn't seen. How did I miss this? Long Haul's trailer.
Right.
Yeah.
It's quite
So you didn't know what we were talking about when we mentioned it earlier.
Right, we talked about it earlier, yeah.
I thought you meant that in the combined mode, but I didn't realise it was in the alt mode. He has this whole
Devastator's not dragging a little trailer around with him. No, he's not like...
It used earlier.
Like a little sandpit.
Like, what are these guys talking about? Oh my... Yeah, all right.
Sandpit.
Yeah, some wheels,
A little sandpit.
He wants to have a
long
little play.
hauling.
Yeah.
He's long hauling.
So
he's got a little trailer. Those are Devastator's legs.
That's really funny. Oh, and his little wingy bits. All right. Ignoring that bit, everything else looks amazing. But go and buy it from TF Source. It's great. We're going to buy it.
Segment done, is it?
That's it done. Yeah, honestly.
Yeah. Cue the music.
All right, it looks great, doesn't it? Oh, head sculpt.
Yeah, I really like how Long Haul's come out here in the robot mode, because he looks. The old one looked like a very wide fellow. The
Unite Warriors
guy, Combined Warriors guy. This guy just kind of looks like a nice mix between the cartoon and that toy.
Yeah, I think of this set versus the Combiner Wars Unite Warriors versions, Long Haul is the biggest difference. And I actually kind of like that Long Haul, like the whole sideways elbow action thing. It doesn't bother me, but this does look like it looks pretty good. Yeah. It's fair to say.
It's got nice little greebly bits going on in his legs and all that stuff. There's a lot of detailing in it. That's cool. Ain't no hollow plastic there. That's nice. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah,
it's cool. I think my only notes on Long Haul are that his, he can't actually carry anything in his truck.
Mate. Yeah.
It's such a shame. I was like, when I saw it, I was like, it makes sense.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. But it's kind of like,
First thing I thought, I was like, where's the bed for the truck? Do you know what I mean? Like, how do you put anything in there? You can't.
It's
not
got
hollow.
a lid on it.
Yeah,
it's got a lid.
Exactly.
Stops the water getting in.
It's got a tarp. Yeah,
paint it black. Yeah.
It's a tarp. It's a tarp. I don't know, but yeah, the thing that got me actually, other than the tarp, was the Commander class thing, and I get why they've done it, but it's it's a strange choice in some ways because it's just
It's
like,
the price point, isn't it?
It's the price point.
That's good.
Oh, is that why?
Yeah,
Okay.
It's the price point, yeah. But to just kind of bundle in 2 toys like that, it was a bit of it was just a bit of an eye opener, kind of like, oh, okay, do you know what I mean? That's unusual. But I get it. I mean, ultimately, you're going to pay the money one way or another, aren't you? Whether this is released as in a 2-pack or single packs or whatever it is. So I guess they may as well. But just an interesting approach.
Yeah, it looks like a great set though. That back of the box imagery as well. Look at hooks. He's got an extendable hook going on as well, which is very awesome. And that purple's popping.
Is it popping?
Yeah, popping.
I assume this is to get it out in closer proximity to one another, so they can have this as a commander class, and then 2 of the others in the same sort of wave.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
so
that makes sense, wouldn't it?
The how it's packed in the waves and things.
Yeah,
I'm
so
guessing.
rather than it being staggered over a whole year. Or 2.
Exactly. I think they did say that that's why they did it. So, which again, I totally understand the reasons for it, and I don't think it's bad. I just think it was, an interesting one nonetheless. So, but it's how they kind of get creative these days, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
Hook looks great as well.
he does look really good, doesn't he?
He's
Yeah,
always
he
the
does.
best looking Constructicon anyway.
Yeah.
Always is. He's got the best face.
Yeah, he really does. Those head sculpts are amazing. Devastator's combined mode head sculpt with the
Look at that
visor.
expression.
Yeah, it's proper.
It's very much a harumph look, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it is,
It
isn't
is.
it? Yeah, it's amazing.
It's perfect.
It's really
it's
good.
so funny because so much of this set really reminds me of the Unite Warriors one. Like the head sculpt is a great example.
Yep.
To the point where in my mind's eye it could almost be identical. But then when you look at the Unite Warriors one, side by side, you realise how different they are.
There's a tactility to it as well. I think there's a way you sort of look at it. It looks like it would feel like the Unite Warriors one, if you know what I mean, like the plastic. There's a lot of that. Like you can almost hear that sort of jangly noise, the creaking of the Unite Warriors guy. But yeah, I see what you mean. Like when you look at the bots, not Longhaul, but the others, they look very similar, don't they?
They do, yeah. I'm sure they'll
they
handle
would,
quite
but,
differently.
yeah.
I mean, they're a little bit smaller for starters, but I think as well the real proof of this is going to be standing it next to stuff like Menasor and Liokaiser, actually. I mean, we saw a picture of this prototype versus Liokaiser, and that picture blew me away. Honestly, I was like, that is so nice. It's like just brilliant, So I think there is a real benefit to that.
Yeah, it's a goodie. Looks amazing. Oh, I'm a bit nervous now about waiting until it's at retail, but I'm gonna stay true to my plan.
And
just do that.
there.
I've already pre-ordered.
As everyone should. Go and get it. It's on tiersource.com right now. Go and check it out and check them out for all your Transformers needs.
We now return to the Transformers.
Right, well, I think that's going to about do it for Haslabs. I'm sure we've set the world to rights, or maybe we haven't. I don't know. I mean, this feels like a discussion that it's not one that's going to be solved anytime soon, is it? I think this sort of cycle, if you like, is going to repeat on an annual basis. So maybe this will be a little bit evergreen. I'm not sure.
Probably.
But if you have enjoyed yeah, exactly. But if you have enjoyed the chat tonight, then you can get a lot more like this on our Patreon. Now, as I mentioned earlier, that includes 5 glorious tiers of stuff, including we've got a mini-series on there, over sort of 60 or so mini-series. We've got over 90-something mini-sodes by now, which is incredible. We're going to be up to 99 and then 100 of those before too long. And we've got lots of other stuff as well. There's a very popping Discord on there, which is going from strength to strength to strength, and that's really good. And you can commission mini-sodes and do all kinds of stuff as well. But another exciting perk is that you get to ask a question. Isn't that right, Jason?
Indeed you do, yeah. And I might pronounce your name correctly if you're lucky. So tonight, gentlemen, from Star Saber Fan 38, we have Hey Sixo, because it's your podcast, obviously.
Yeah, just
for you.
Yes.
Yeah,
forget us, Jason. We don't exist.
I know, exactly.
We're just here to facilitate his ego.
Just like window dressing.
Exactly. Sixo's 6 sets.
We're the other paper clips still in the box.
Hey Sixo, just submitting a question for the podcast. So from Star Saber Fan 38, for both of you, for all of us, if you could play...
He's such a nice lad. Such a nice guy.
If you could cosplay as your favourite Transformer, who would it be and why? Liam.
I'm so glad you picked him first.
Oh, that's easy. Heinrad.
Oh, no.
And that would be good because it could double as Revenge of the Fallen Devastator.
There we go. See,
This
That's
is
what
right.
season one.
You could
Triple changer.
Yeah, you can't go to TFN as Heinrad. It's a child friendly, right? It's wrong.
Family friendly.
Yeah, exactly.
I was about to say I would love to see you in a little Heinrad costume, Liam, and then I'm aware of how that probably sounds for those that know about Heinrad, so I'm not sure that is what I want to say. Oh dear.
Oh, that's good. Sixo, what about you?
I would go in full original G1 Pretender cosplay, like Cloudburst, for example.
Oh, that's
like, you know,
cool.
Autobot Cloudburst.
Shell
with
suit.
yeah, shell
Yeah.
suit. Full puffy, maximum shell suit vibe. No hats. No hats.
I was going to say, what about the hats?
No, no hats.
That
Keep
would
the
be
hair on
awesome.
display. Got to keep the hair
Don't
out.
want any paint wear on your head.
Yeah, exactly. No paint wear. But yeah, I might carry a little hat around with me, with my little electro whip. And
Electro
whatever
whip.
else.
Love it.
Yeah,
You with your
brilliant.
electro whip, me with my big Heinrad balls.
Your Tanuki balls.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my
Turn
goodness.
into a thing, innit?
Yeah, it is. Wow. Come on,
Well,
Jason, top that.
I'm
then.
going to be way more wholesome. I would go. Two choices. So I have a Optimus Prime cosplay costume that my ex-wife had got made for me for my 40th, which I still have, and I always love the idea of going dressed as Optimus Prime and then having my son dressed as Bumblebee. But now he's got bigger and a bit older. I would go as Ultra Magnus, so then I could be the powered armor, and Sebastian, my son, could be the white Prime, and then we could just combine together. If I could make that work, how cool would that be? You know,
Where's he going? Where are you putting him?
he'd be my backpack.
All right, okay, on the back.
Yeah, he's my
Up your
backpack.
jumper. I mean,
Yeah, do you know it'd be a
That's
bit
your
like...
head going to be the Matrix chamber.
That's it. I'd be like inside the massive powered armor, and then he'd have to be wearing all the other greebly bit. I don't know the physics of it and how it's all
Jason,
working, right?
Just, yeah.
yeah.
Don't think it through. Genuinely.
Yeah, that's just
yeah.
I know. I need a specialist. There we go. That was excellent.
Definitely
question.
needed something.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
That was an excellent question.
Yeah, thanks, Darcy.
I think we should all go as pretenders, though. You know, you guys, we could go as Cloudburst, Landmine, and Wave Rider. I think that would be really fun.
That would be. It's a great idea,
yeah.
actually. Yeah, and we
Yeah.
crack open, and it's terrifying.
Maz can go as Metal Hawk.
I think he'd be like which is the one that looks like Tom Selleck?
Stranglehold.
Stranglehold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you'd have to be shirtless for that. I don't know if you could convince
That's
Maz to
what I
do
mean.
that. Yes, that'd be fun.
Shirtless
That'd be
Maz.
brilliant.
Shirtless Maz. See, I think Metal Hawk is good because Metal Hawk's all golden and Maz has got golden balls, as we know. So
Oh, yeah, there we
it could
go.
work.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Excellent.
So that's just one perk of our Patreon. There you go. You get to hear Liam talk about Tanuki balls and yeah, many other perks on there as well. Many good things. So do go and sign up at our Patreon. You can get a lot more waffle on there at patreon.com/Triple Takeover. And as I said earlier, and we mentioned, we do also have a sponsor for the evening. That is tfsource.com. So do go and check them out for all your Transformers needs.
And we do have a Redbubble. If you want all of your Tanuki balls needs taken care of, go over there.
Not literally. Marketing.
And we are on social media. We're a Triple Takeover all over the place. But yeah, do contact us and let us know what you think of Haslab. Good, bad, what you think of Liokaiser or any of the others. Just please, no abuse. Just
Yeah, exactly.
good vibes.
Keep it
Be
clean.
nice.
Vibes.
Yeah, keeping it
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
You don't have to like it, but keep it clean.
Jason and Sixo can both be found on social media. Sixo, we need an update. What's
Nah,
happening
man.
with
Yeah.
the war of the Instagram? Go on.
Well, it's been
Where are
logged.
you?
I managed to get through to somebody through
Oh,
various
good.
schemes. It's been logged, but it's still in review at the moment. So supposedly a human is reviewing it, although it's been about 11 or 12 days by this point. So I don't know.
No.
Yeah.
Oh,
So we shall see.
Oh my.
But I am at 6OTF, not anywhere there's an at.
I am at J Swags
It's different.
and Liam.
Not different enough. Get your
It's
own
different.
thing.
No, I'm not anywhere. It's like the opposite.
Yes,
not
I get
anywhere
that.
there's an
I get
at.
that. I'll let you off this
These
week.
like the exact
Okay.
opposite.
Look at the pain
Um,
he's in.
yeah.
Oh no.
You see,
Mhm.
it's like, but it's so far the other way.
Is it though? Probably.
Yeah,
Liam, just do it.
not
Just do it. Just do it. Proud.
Anywhere there's an
Loud
at.
and proud.
And I'm talking about soapbox. Oh,
it sets you up well, you see, because then you're going to say it, but you are that, and then that's really good for you because you're like, superior.
Digging a hole.
Okay. And I can be found at Toybox on Instagram, Facebook, and all of the other social media pages. Thank you.
Oh, you've broken him. Finally.
I think I've
Stolen my life.
Gone too far. Liam, you need to stop saying such clever things, mate. That's the problem.
It's such a rarity. Don't take them from me.
No, it's not, though. They tumble out of you.
Yeah, everyone wants your brand. That's what it is, Not me, though. I'm not a thievery like some other people,
Not a thievery. You're definitely an original, Jason.
Thanks. Oh, it's that good. Although I do have a website, jswags.com or jasonwagner.co.uk. Where will you go?
You have 2 websites.
Wow. 2 websites.
They both go to the same place, I'll be honest. But go and visit it, and exciting.
It's quite a web of social media intrigue with you, Jason, isn't it? I don't know.
No, it's because I'm so old. I've been on the internet since it was made of steam.
Web.
The World Wide Web. I run on Netscape.
Jason can be found on news groups.
Yes, exactly. Well, look, it's been great fun chatting through Haslab and setting the world to rights. So as Liam said, do hit us up if you have opinions about it and you can express them nicely. We'd love to hear it. So, but otherwise, we'll be back in 2 weeks' time. So catch us for that one and we'll see you then.
Quaid. I'm trapped in your butt, Quaid.
Go to mine. Wait. Forget it, man. His fortune-telling days are over. Start the reactor. Free Mars.